Prologue of Chicago by Maurine Watkins. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Characters:
Roxie Hart, the prettiest woman ever charged with murder in Chicago. Read by Jenn
Amos Hart, her meal ticket husband. Read by Rick Cordray.
Billy Flynn, her attorney, best in the city next to Halliday. Read by Todd.
Martin S. Harrison, assistant state's attorney. Read by Beeswaxcandle.
Charles E. Murdock, police sergeant. Read by James Hedrick.
Jake, reporter on the Morning Gazette. Read by Tomas
Babe, photographer on the Morning Gazette. Read by redrun.
Mary Sunshine. Read by Maggie Hires.
Mrs. Morton, matron at Cook County Jail. Read by Anna Maria.
Inmates of Murderous Row.
Velma, stylish divorcee. Read by Kat Sadler.
Liz, God's Messenger. Read by karmaemmingsMoonshine.
Moonshine Maggie. Read by TriciaGJudge.
Go-to-Hell Kitty, the Tiger Girl. Read by valroth.
Machine-Gun Rosie, the Cicero Kid. Read by TriciaGJudge.
Judge, read by Larry Wilson.
Bailiff, read by James Hedrick.
Clerk, read by Elsie Selwyn.
First Photographer, read by Chuck Williamson.
The Second Photographer, read by karmaemmingsMoonshine.
Third Photographer, read by Brian Fullen.
Stage Directions, read by WendyKatzHiller. Prologue. Friday night, bedroom of Amos Hart. Act 1, Sunday afternoon, 2 days later, woman's ward of the Cook County Jail. Act 2, noon, 1 month later, same as Act 1. Act 3, Scene 1, morning, 7 weeks later, prisoner's room. Scene 2, later, same day, Judge Canton's court. Chicago, present day. Prologue. 6:58 p.m., April the 3rd. Scene: bedroom of Amos Hart and others. A corner room, first floor, in one of those cheap modern flats on Chicago's South Side. There's an entrance with fountain and flowers, but pine and beaver board within. Mission finish to the heavily pretentious woodwork, solid doors, beams, and molding. Furniture red and glistening like a courtesan's polished nails. Flowered paper, gaudy rugs on the wide board floor. Everything new and tawdry. Everything cheap and shiny. 2 windows, center rear, look out on the court. A door, left, opens into an adjoining room, and another, right, into a narrow hall, with a living room straight ahead and outside door unseen. Another door, left, opens into a small closet, filled 98% with feminine garments. 2 pairs of trousers and a coat are accorded 1 hook in the corner. Between the 2 windows, with footboard to the front, is a large brass bed, with covers thrown back in confusion and pillows tossed together. At its head is a night table with telephone, a stoutish bottle, and a couple of glasses, empty but not unsoiled, an ashtray, and a box of cigarettes. At the right is a large vanity dresser, equipped with all the known weapons of offense and instruments of preservation, bottles and atomizers, jars of cream, powder, rouge, perfumes, especially perfumes, that fill the air with their heavy, cloying odors. Silver-embossed brushes and comb filled with hair, manicure set of imitation ivory, eyebrow pencils, and lipstick. And over it all a heavy film of pinkish powder. Half-closed drawers reveal shoes, intimate garments, peach and pink crepe de chine with deep val lace, soiled hose, hats, and gloves in endless confusion. To the left of the center window, between it and the door to the hall, is a Victrola. There are records on the floor, sorted to the player's choice. It is playing now, heavy rhythmic jazz, with the sinful insistence of the tom-tom and the saxophone's wailing plea. The man, a man perhaps of 30, stands in the doorway, pulling on his coat and turned to go. The woman, a girl of 23 or so, stands by the foot of the bed watching him, and she steadies herself with one hand on the rail. Steadies herself from emotion, perhaps from the drink that left the empty bottle. She is slender, beautifully slender, as you can see through the diaphanous, flashy negligee of blue georgette with its flounce of imitation lace and accordion-plaited ruffles. And the face is beautiful, too, with short upper lip, pouting mouth, tip-tilted nose, wide dark eyes, skin of the finest texture, and hair the color of flame. Turned now in profile, there's a hint of a Raphael angel, with a touch of Medusa. Roxie, a shrill, hysterical voice that is vile in anger.
You damned tightwad!
Her voice is lowered with hatred.
Like hell you're through!
One white arm flings around to the dresser. One white hand searches the drawer and brings forth the latest necessity of Milady's boudoir, a pearl-handled .32 revolver. Her voice stabs with virulent rage.
You goddamned louse!
She pulls the trigger, then stands fixed. He sways, crumples, falls, a soft, thuddy fall. Outside the window, children are singing and playing under the swaying arc light. But within there is a silence, except for the tom-tom's sensuous beat and the saxophone's last sad wail. From the next room comes the cheerful, idiotic call of the cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. It is 7 o'clock. The curtain falls for an instant to denote the passage of 3 1/2 hours, and it rises again on the same room, with the dead man removed. The table has been drawn out, and behind it sits Police Sergeant Murdock, a heavy, bluff fellow of 50 or so, with ruddy face and heavy jowls. In the middle of the floor sits Amos, an awkward creature of 35 or 6, with a low forehead, snub nose, and weak chin. He wears a noble, melancholy air and enjoys the procedure thoroughly. His clothes bear the odor of the shop, and his hands are marked with grease and grime. A newspaper man, a rough and ready chap in the middle 20s, with keen eyes and cynical smile, leans over the foot of the bed, listening as the sergeant dictates to Amos, who writes laboriously. Sergeant, dictating.
Voluntarily and of my own free will.
Freely and gladly.
Ain't he the cheerful murderer, though?
Amos, quickly.
That ain't murder. Shooting a burglar. Why, only last week the jury thanked a man.
Jake, scoffing.
Burglar, huh?
Amos, excitedly.
Well, he was. Climbing right in that there window.
Sergeant, impatiently.
Come on, sign.
I ain't signing nothing as he says it's a burglar.
Say, he ain't trying the case. Sign.
Amos signs. Officer takes and reads with satisfaction.
And mind you don't say we beat you up or showed you the goldfish or nothing when you get on the witness stand.
Amos, with injured dignity.
I'll not. I gave myself up, you know.
Dramatically.
Surrendered myself to the law.
Sergeant turns to reporter, who has taken the telephone.
That wipes that off the books. God, how I hate having 'em hanging over unsolved. How's that for quick work, Gazette?
He looks at his watch.
The call came at 9:30, and in less than an hour we've made the arrest and got a signed confession.
Jake at phone.
Dearborn 0500. Right.
To the sergeant.
Slick enough, all right.
At the phone.
City desk.
Put that in your story, and don't forget who done it. Sergeant Charles E. Murdock, and don't forget the E.
You know me.
Sergeant with a grunt.
I know your whole damn tribe.
Jake at phone.
Hello, Tommy. Is the boss there? Well, give me a rewrite, man. Callahan talking.
In an easy, drawling monotone.
Still on the hot case. Yeah, coroner's just gone with the body. Sure, he's dead all right. Casey's the name. Cascly. Found a card in his pocket. Auto salesman for Waverly, 1861, South Michigan.
Amos starts up.
What's that? Didn't show me no card.
Shut up.
Jake in the phone.
Might check on that. Maybe there's a story there. Pretty tame here if he's telling the truth, but it sounds kind of fishy to me. Hart works at night, you see. Mechanic at Phillips' garage, 6701 Cottage Grove. Oh, a queer cuss with an Andy Gump head on an Abe Lincoln Chases. Well, he gets home a little after 9, finds his wife asleep, gets a snack to eat, comes back to the bedroom and finds this guy climbing in the window. Grabs his gun and lets him have it. Yep, they got a confession all right. Came right across with it. Sure, either crazy or knows his Chicago.
Amos complacently.
I ain't as dumb as I look.
Hey, who got a confession?
Oh yeah, Dickie, get this right now. The call was answered by Sergeant Charles E. Murdock. D-O-C-K. And policeman... what's his name, Sergeant? The gink outside.
Patterson. Michael Patterson.
Patterson of the Hyde Park Station, who made the arrest and obtained a signed confession in less than an hour. And Martin S. Harrison is here from the state's attorney's office. He's talking to the wife. And oh, baby, she's a red-hot mama with an angel face. We'll run her in the picture.
Picture?
You got the idea, but you better run it to straighten you till I get more dope. Tame if true and cheap any way you take it. Sure, I'll ring you back when Babe gets here. Right, so long.
Hangs up receiver and turns to Murdock.
Say, big boy, the photographer's on his way. Be here any minute now, for a couple of flashes. We can stick around till he gets here, huh?
You newspaper fellas think the whole police department is a show run for your benefit?
Jake, grinning.
Well, ain't it?
No, it ain't. I'm clearing up this here case because it's my line of duty.
Sure. It means your bread and butter.
Slaps officer's knee.
But don't forget where the jam comes from, old-timer. You're one of our men, ain't you? Well, you've got to play ball.
I am, ain't I? What do you want? See anyone here from the other papers?
Chuckling.
They're holding the bag at the station.
Assistant State's Attorney Harrison comes in from the next room. He is a tall young man of the student type, with eager, nervous manner, now almost bursting with suppressed excitement, a little nearsighted, with tortoise-shell glasses, aquiline nose, thin lips.
Well, well, I've got 'em for you, Mr. Assistant State's Attorney, and here's your confession, all sewed up.
Good.
Sergeant, cheerfully.
Not that it amounts to a damn, for he'll deny every word of it when he comes to trial.
Amos, with dignity.
I won't. I shot him, and I'm prepared to...
To wear a hero's medal.
Harrison takes a seat facing Amos and nods encouragingly.
That's the way to talk now, and if you stick to it, I'll help you, provided you make a clean breast of it.
What's the matter? Trying to shoot holes in that confession? It's all there, ain't it? In black and white, and he tells just how he done it.
That clears your books, but I want to know the motive.
Smiles pleasantly at Amos.
For you don't look like a man, Mr. Hart, who'd shoot a fellow being down in cold blood.
I didn't. I was defending my home, just like I told you. Found him climbing in the window.
A total stranger?
Amos, emphatically.
Never saw him before in my life.
My God, Harrison, I covered all that.
Harrison, ignoring Sargent.
And your wife? Are you willing to swear that he was a total stranger to her, too?
Yes, sir.
All right. Suppose you add that.
Dictates, and Amos scrawls in the stenographer's notebook.
To the best of my knowledge, the deceased was also totally unknown to my wife, Roxie Hart.
Amos signs statement.
Say, what's the big idea?
I trust you, Mr. Hart, but not the attorney you'll see tomorrow.
He turns to others with satisfaction.
I can't spring the unwritten law now.
Say, there's no unwritten law in this.
I'll say there isn't. You've sworn it away right here.
He opens the door and shoves Amos into the charge of the policeman in the next room.
Patterson?
To the sergeant.
Stranger hell. Why, she's been carrying on with that guy for months, and admits it here.
He taps paper in his pocket.
The nastiest little statements any jury ever read.
He calls at door at left.
Mrs. Hart?
To the sergeant.
She's talking now, all right.
Goes to the room at right with Amos, and Roxie enters, disheveled, excited, with a look of furtive cunning in her eyes, red from weeping.
Where's my husband?
Sergeant, with a glance at her filmy costume.
Say, you better get into some clothes, sister.
What for? He promised I'd go free. I ain't done nothin'.
Sergeant shakes his head.
Shake a leg, kid. Clothes.
She goes to the closet and begins dressing. No one minds, especially Roxie.
Well, well, so you been cheating. Ain't you shamed now? Your sweetie dead and your husband held for murder? So you was right here all the time. And what did you do while he filled him full of lead, huh?
Roxie, with a little gasp of fear.
Begged 'em to stop. Fightin' they was. Threw myself between 'em.
The story picks up.
Fightin'?
Roxie, gaining confidence.
Sure, jealous. You should have seen 'em. Mad about me. Both of 'em. Perfectly mad.
Where'd you meet 'em?
At the office, where I work.
Sergeant, to Jake.
See? That's what happens when a woman leaves the home.
To Roxie.
What do?
I'm a secretary.
So you're a stenographer. Humph.
Looking at statement.
How long has this been going on?
Pause.
All right, speak up.
The first time, really, was Christmas.
That's a nice way for a married woman to be carrying on now, ain't it? Planning to run off and marry him?
Roxie, genuinely surprised.
Marry him? Hell no.
Just a good time on the side, with Goofy in there for a meal ticket.
Meal ticket? Say, he couldn't buy my liquor.
Did this guy know you was married, or was you fooling him, too?
Roxie comes out of closet in a poppy-colored dress and goes to dresser for makeup.
So was he. A wife and a kid.
Door at right opens. Amos flings in, wild-eyed, with Harrison following him. Harrison, exultant.
All right, here we are. We've got it at last, Mrs. Hart.
Roxie flings herself about.
What?
Amos, in a thick voice.
So, you been stringing me.
Harrison grabs Roxie's arm.
Why did you kill him?
Roxie gives a frightened glance around, considers a dash.
It's a lie. I didn't. Damn you, let go.
She sinks her teeth in his wrist. He flings her off with an oath, and she sinks into a chair in hysterical rage.
You said you'd stick. You said you'd...
Sure, if he's a burglar, what'd you lie to me for?
Roxie, grinds out through her teeth.
God damn you!
So it was you!
Roxie rises, hysterical.
Yes, it was me. I shot him, and I'm damned glad I did. I'd do it again.
Once is enough, dearie.
Roxie grinds her teeth in rage.
Through. Done with me. I showed him all right. If I don't have him, nobody does.
Crumples, sobbing.
I'm sure glad I met you tonight, sweetheart. Tomorrow you'll sing another tune.
Here's my confession. The whole damn thing to do over again.
Shakes Roxie.
Here, you. Get your rags together.
To Harrison.
We'll get her at the station, but let's finish him.
Indicating Amos.
Now.
He takes Amos to adjoining room. Harrison starts to follow, but Roxie grasps his arm as he passes her. Roxie, chattering.
Oh, God. God, don't let him hang me. Don't. Why, I'd die. You promised if I signed that. Can't we fix this up, you and me? Fix it up, you know?
Harrison, coldly, with virtuous glance toward Jake.
You don't frame anything with me.
He shakes her off and goes into the next room. Jake looks down for a moment at Roxie, who has burst into hysterical sobs, then speaks in pretended surprise.
Well, for crying out loud, did I ever? And what's the matter with you?
Matter?
Half shrieking.
Matter? Are you crazy?
Starts pacing up and down madly.
Oh, God. God, can't you do something? Can't I get away? Can't I?
Jake takes her by shoulders and forces her back into chair.
Keep your clothes on, kid.
Roxie, weeping.
They will hang me. I know they will. I killed him and...
What if you did? Ain't this Chicago? And gallant old Cook County never hung a woman yet. As a matter of fact, cold hard statistics, it's 47-1 you'll go free.
Roxie, eagerly, as she starts packing her clothes in a suitcase.
Free? How?
Sure. Why, you're not even booked yet. But suppose they do, and the coroner's jury holds you, and you're sent to jail.
Roxie, shrieking.
Jail? Jail? Oh, God!
Say them bedews and tears for the jury, sister. But jail's the best beauty treatment in town. You take the rest cure for a couple of months at the county's expense. You lay off men and booze till when you come to trial, you look like a Miss America. And that's when the big show starts, with you for leading lady. It's 100-1 they clear you. That's straight goods. But suppose an off chance does happen, your lawyer will appeal in Springfield.
Gnashing his teeth.
Dear old Springfield. We'll reverse the decision like that.
Snaps his fingers.
And if they don't, there's always a pardon. And you know our governor. God bless him.
He tilts his chair back and smiles at her.
There you are. 1,000-1. Want to bet?
Roxie, fearfully.
And you'll help me?
Sure. I'll phone Billy Flynn in the morning. He's the best criminal lawyer in town, next to Halliday. Specializes in women. Freed Minnie Kalstedt, the Hammer murderess. Marcel Wayne, who fed her children arsenic.
Oh, yes. I read all about them.
Oh, he's a wonder. I will make it a real fight. Harrison's an ace on the prosecutor's staff, and believe me, that boy won't leave a stone unturned to put you back of the bars.
He smiles in satisfaction.
Well, you needn't be so pleased, if you really want me to go free.
Jake stares at her.
Want you to go free? How'd you get that way? Say, I give my last dollar. All 3 of them. And every night when I kneel down by my little bed, I'll ask God to put a hemp rope around your nice white neck.
She shrinks back, and he goes on in rapture.
Oh, baby, that would mean headlines 6 inches high. The story of the year. But don't let my prayers worry you, kid, for God's not on the jury. And with a face like yours, the justice ain't so blind in Chicago.
Roxie, pleased.
Oh, Do you really think I'm... well...
Hesitates with coy modesty.
Sure. I'm calling you the most beautiful murderess.
Murderess?
Of course. What do you think I'd say? Prima donna?
But you needn't say it.
Well, what the hell put you on front page?
Impressively.
Here you're getting something money can't buy. Front page advertising. Why, a 3-line want ad would cost you $2.85, and you'll get line after line, column after column for nothing. Who knows you now? Nobody. But this time tomorrow, your face will be known from coast to coast. Who cares today whether you live or die? But tomorrow, they'll be crazy to know your breakfast food and how did you rest last night. They'll fight to see you, come by the 100 just for a glimpse of your house. But remember Wanda Stoper? Well, we had 20,000 at her funeral.
I'm not interested in funerals.
Jake, grinning.
Why, you may even end in waxworks. Lord, girl, you're getting free publicity a movie queen would die for. Why, you'll be famous.
The sergeant and Harrison come to the door. The former motions to Roxie, and she goes with him to the adjoining room. Harrison enters.
Oh, baby, ain't we in luck, though? A sweet story. A sweet story.
Harrison takes a flask from his pocket and pours 2 drinks. Solemnly they lift their glasses, the glasses of Roxie and the dead man, in toast.
Well, here's to Roxie.
Jake, grinning.
Hang her.
They drink, and he gives Harrison an ecstatic shake.
Here I've just been praying for a nice juicy murder. For 2 weeks now we haven't had nothing but machine guns and hijackers.
They dump out dresser drawers, searching rapidly for letters, pictures, etc.
And this one's got the makings. Wine, woman, jazz, a lover.
Harrison tosses over diary.
And plenty of dirt. Read 'em and blush.
Jake flicks through it.
Oh, Roxie, Roxie. No mud on her shoes. He must have been number 468.
And I can't bring it out in the trial.
Ain't it hell? And me on a decent paper. God, what a waste. But gee, what a chance for you.
Just what I need. Something big, sensational, to make me known.
You've got it here. Scott will promote you on this.
Promote me? Hell. It'll mean I can get out. For 5 years I've slaved like a dog for justice and society at $3,000 a year. But now I've got my experience, and this time next year I'll be raking in the shekels for humanity and mercy. That's where the money is. Defense.
Jake admiringly, taking notebook.
Why, you old son of a gun. All right, let's have a quote from the rising young attorney.
Harrison, oratorically, kneeling before the debris from dresser.
You may say, it's a cold-blooded, dastardly crime for which Assistant State's Attorney Martin S. Harrison will ask the death penalty. A hanging case, and I'm ready to go to the jury tomorrow.
Attaboy. But Scott won't let you. Not with the election this fall. April. He'll hold it till September. Say, if he could get a conviction, an honest-to-God conviction, on a woman, why, he'd sweep the city clean.
There's a ring at the door. Jake answers while Harrison replaces dresser drawers. It's the photographer with his flashlight outfit. Another rough-and-ready young man with ingratiating smile and a steady flow of words.
Hello, Jake. What's it all about?
Jake opens door for Sergeant and Roxie.
Hot stuff. She kills him rather than lose him.
Babe backs off and blinks his eyes in exaggerated appreciation of Roxie.
Oh, my. Oi, oi. Ain't she the prize winner, though?
In pretended severity.
Keep them RSVP eyes off me, sister. I'm a married man.
To Jake.
Where's the stiff?
Outside. You don't want him.
Hurry up, boys. We've got to get along.
Righto. This will make the home if we hurry.
Sets up his camera, takes flashlight powder, etc.
Any of the other boys been here? Let's see, what do we have? One of you.
To Harrison.
And the girl.
Say, she's my prisoner.
Babe fixes chairs.
Both of you, and her in the center.
Harrison and the sergeant both try for the chair closest the camera.
What about the husband?
Is there a husband? Sure, let's have the husband.
Harrison steps to the door to call Amos, and the sergeant slips into the preferred chair.
Better give me the names, Jake.
He jots them in a notebook. Harrison returns with Amos.
No, we don't. I'll bust his camera for him.
Oh, you will you?
This don't go in no papers.
Oh, it don't it?
No, it don't. I won't let you use my name. This is to be kept quiet.
Say, shut up.
To the others.
Snap into it now. I gotta make a deadline.
I won't have my wife dragged into...
Here, you get this. We're not dragging your wife. She dragged herself, see? You don't want publicity, but you're gonna get it anyway. The question is, what kind? Do you want the papers for you or against you? Well, you gotta play ball.
Babe to Roxie.
You're willin', ain't ya?
She hesitates, and he looks astounded.
Got Mary Pickford skinned a mile and don't want her picture in the paper. My God, can you beat it? You'll be right along with President Coolidge and Harold McCormick. There ain't a society dame in town but what would jump at the chance.
He briskly guides her to the center chair.
Right here now.
Don't you do it, Roxie.
Oh, shut up. I guess I will if I want to.
Babe, at camera.
That's the time. Never let 'em boss you. And brush your hair back. It hides your eyes, and believe me, you don't want to hide them eyes, does she, Jake?
I really need a Marcel.
They're wearing 'em straight. And now, Harrison, you and the lieutenant, look at her. That's right. And you...
To Roxie.
What's her name? Roxie? Look at the camera.
He holds the powder high. The sergeant sprawls his hands, and Harrison frowns judiciously.
A little smile now, Roxie. Just a little more. My, ain't that perfect, Jake. I'll bet she's the girl on the toothpaste ad.
Flash, bang. Roxie gives a little scream. Jake opens the window to let out the smoke, and the men reluctantly give up their chairs.
All right, let's have another. Her and the husband.
Not me. I ain't gonna have folks saying...
Want 'em to think you're a yellow dog and run out on her? Come on here now and show the world you're gonna stand by her. It'll help her, won't it, babe?
Sure, when they see a man like him.
Amos, yielding.
Well, of course, anything I can do.
Babe arranges them holding hands stiffly.
That's right. You're asking his forgiveness. And you?
To Amos.
Smile down at her.
Back at the camera.
All right, let's go.
Flash, bang. Roxie goes to the mirror and adds a bit more color all around.
Now I'd like one with the stiff.
Say, Gazette, you've got enough.
One more, Captain, and I'm through. You're here, making the arrest. She's kneeling by the body.
With a punch at Jake.
Down, Fido. Play dead.
Jake flops on floor as suggested.
Attaboy. I'll use that for my lead.
Roxie takes position as indicated.
What do I do?
Cry. No, it's a shame to hide that face.
What about a profile?
Great, but only half as good as a front, so you'd better look at the camera. That's right. And smile. Just a little more. Big.
Flash, bang.
Done.
Tosses things together and hurls goodbye.
See you later, Jake.
Sergeant takes Roxie by the arm and turns to Jake.
Coming with us?
I'll drive over with Mart. Gotta phone the office.
The sergeant and Roxie, followed by Amos, go on out. Harrison stares after them.
God, if only I could hang that woman.
Well, you ain't got the chance of a snowball now. Dumb. But beautiful.
He takes up phone.
Dearborn 0500.
Curtain. End of prologue. Act 1 of Chicago by Maurine Watkins. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 1. Sunday afternoon, 2 days later, Woman's Ward of the Cook County Jail, Chicago. While the curtain is still down, there is heard in heavily accented tones the Salvation Army. Be not dismayed whate'er betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wondrous love abide, God will take care of you. The curtain rises slowly on a large room, flanked on each side, left and right, with tiny white bunk rooms, equipped with cot, washstand, and chair. The rear wall is a huge double iron screen at which the prisoners receive their friends and relatives on visiting days. In it, at the extreme left, is a double-locked door that opens into the hall around the elevator shaft. There's a small stand table and a few straight chairs at the right of this door, a long white enameled table with chairs on either side down the center of the room. A stairway, invisible, at the right, rear, leads up to the women's recreation and lounging room. Roxie sits at the center table. She wears a jade green satin dress, sleeveless, nude hose, decorated with turquoise ribbon garters and black velvet pumps. She is pale, minus rouge, powder, and lipstick. There is a box of cigarettes by her side, and she smokes like mad, straightforward, honest smoking, with appreciative inhalation now and then. The table is stacked with newspapers, and the floor strewn with discarded sheets. Mrs. Morton, the matron, in dark dress with large white apron, sits across from her with scissors, ready to clip any bit Roxie designates. She's a stalwart woman of 50 or so, with iron gray hair, dark eyes with flabby lids, ruddy complexion, and weak mouth. Another woman lounges in a low rocker, a dark, quiet woman in the late 30s, with smooth, sallowed features, large, dreamy eyes, and full lips that have a dipsomaniacal droop. She moves with studied languor, and her voice is soft and low. She wears a heavy, dull crepe dress and topaz earrings that match a certain tawny gleam in her smoldering eyes. She is engrossed in the society sheet, while Roxie pores over the news sections. The voices of the singers, several rooms away, ring out fresh and clear, with a syncopation jazz can't touch. God will take care of you through all the day, or all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Roxie, casually, as she hands Mrs. Morton another paper to clip.
Then yesterday must have been his day off.
Matron, puzzled.
What?
I just said God wasn't on the job at the inquest, or I wouldn't have landed here.
The music starts up again.
Say, does that keep up all day?
Just an hour or so. It's the Salvation Army. The men likes to hear 'em. I'll have 'em close the doors.
Gets up and goes to the door.
With them squawking and the radio upstairs tuning in to YM meetings, health talks, and sermons.
As Matron is out of earshot.
This is a hell of a joint. Sunday here and not a drop of liquor in the house.
Velma looks up in ready sympathy.
That's the hardest thing to get used to.
Gives a little shiver and takes another cigarette.
Smoking helps some.
Roxie, as Matron returns.
Look!
Gives a squeal of delight and points to page.
A whole page of pictures.
Awed.
Why, it's just like I was president or something. Beautiful Roxie Hart, the jazz slayer. Roxie and her attorney. Roxie and her husband.
Gives a gasp of surprise.
For the love of my diary! The little book to which she told her secrets. Can you beat it? Only you and I, diary, know how much we love him. Say, who do you suppose wrote that stuff? You ought to see the real one.
Velma, darkly.
They've got it all right. No sense of honor, reporters. Broke into my apartment the night I left and stole a whole suitcase of letters. Valuable letters. Letters from men who loved me.
She is overcome with emotion.
And a diagram of the apartment. My God, see the spot-marked X?
Points with satisfaction.
That's where he fell, the dirty piker.
Matron, reprovingly.
Shh, dearie, mustn't talk like that.
To Velma.
She ain't seen her lawyer yet.
Well, he was.
Scornfully.
One of these wise guys that wants to be a daddy on $60 a week and keep a family on the side. But I called him all right.
I know.
Virtuously.
I never hear a man's being killed, but I know he got just what was coming to him. But you mustn't say it.
What's your defense?
Roxie shrilly.
Defense? Do you think I'd let a guy hold out on me like that?
But you can't tell the jury that.
Oh, can't I?
It's just like divorce. The reason don't count. It's the grounds.
Well, if that ain't grounds...
But it's got to be according to law, dearie. Like he threatened or attacked you or something.
Roxie to Velma.
What's yours?
Mine? Why? I didn't do it.
Then who did? There was just you and him in the room.
I'm sure I don't know. I was drunk, my dear. Dead drunk. Passed out completely and remembered nothing from the time we left the cafe till the officers found me washing the blood from my hands. But I'm sure I didn't do it. Why, I've the tenderest heart in the world. Haven't I, Mrs. Morton?
Oh, she has indeed.
And wouldn't hurt a worm.
Tremolo.
Not even a worm.
Is being drunk grounds?
Now don't you worry, dearie. Billy Flynn will take care of all that.
He's coming this afternoon.
Matron, wisely.
He'll fix you up all right. They don't make him any smarter than Billy. What he don't know about juries and women.
A roll of her eyes intimates that the Britannica is a tyro.
He's the best in the city.
Except Mr. Hessler.
Matron, hastily.
Criminal lawyers, I mean.
Roxie, quickly, to Velma.
Ain't yours criminal?
Oh, dear, no. He's doing this just for me. Divorce is his line. He's handled all of my cases. My family attorney.
Lifts brows languidly.
Very exclusive.
Roxie to Matron.
Is mine exclusive?
Velma laughs scornfully.
Billy?
Matron, hastily.
Yes, in his way, yes. And he'll give you a pretty trial.
Well, he ought to, for $5,000.
My, that's a lot of money. But it's worth it. A cheap one could do it all right. Why, with your looks, you don't need a lawyer at all. But it's a satisfaction to know it'll be done right. That's what I said when I buried my husband.
Roxie, expectantly.
Did you kill your...
Suicide it was. I went in debt, but I had all the trimmings. Never skimp on a funeral or a trial, especially a murder trial. Do it right.
Finishes clipping and counts the columns.
There. 5, 8, 12, 17 columns and 23 pictures, besides all them they got this morning.
Roxie takes one and reads with pleasure.
Roxie Hart, the prettiest woman ever charged with murder in Cook County, was held to the grand jury.
Runs on down column.
Smiled and cast coquettish glances from pansy eyes half hid by her purple turban.
Breaks off in anger.
Can you beat it? I never wore a turban in my life.
To Velma.
Why, I'd look as old as you.
Velma, affably.
Yes, you gotta have chick for a turban.
Roxie glares, but has no answer.
They're awful dumb, reporters. Never get anything right.
Roxie continues reading.
Beige hose topped with turquoise garters. Say, they don't miss a trick.
Garters? What next?
And rouged knees that warned Ann Pennington to look to her laurels.
Well, it's the last rouge they'll see for some time.
Thank heavens I can stand it, but it must be hard on people who are old or sallow. What's the big idea anyway, shutting down on makeup?
Matron, apologetically.
It's the rules, dearie. I don't know why, but you'll get it for the trial, all right. Oh my, it's going to be a real pleasure to do you.
Roxie takes up another clipping.
The wife of the dead man sat with bowed head during the inquest. Say, you ought to see her, and the clothes she wore. They ought to run our pictures together and call it Why Men Leave Home. She must be all of 40, and fat. Men like 'em round, but not fat. No pep, no life, while I'm always rarin' to go.
Continues reading.
But the jazz slayer showed neither grief nor remorse, powdered her nose and registered calm amusement.
Velma, bitterly.
You oughta cried and took on a lot. They razzed me the same way.
Well, it's only the papers and the jury's all you care about.
And thank God they're men.
Roxie flings down the clippings and springs up in rage.
The nasty little cat on the ledger calls me knock-kneed. I'll scratch her eyes out.
Matron, in alarm.
Oh, dearie, you mustn't get 'em down on you. Treat 'em nice and...
Well, they can't print lies about me.
Oh, can't they? If you think you've had a raw deal, tell her, Mrs. Morton.
It's terrible, the things they wrote.
Made fun of my jewels, yes, they did. Said my diamond sparkled like real. Like real. And honest to God, 3 carat from my second husband, Mr. Faley. You know him, the clothes manufacturer? And my emerald and platinum bracelet, a divorce present from my first. And my pearls, my real Japanese pearls.
And your coat. Don't forget your coat, Velma.
A genuine Eastern mink, mind you, and they called it Weasel. It was his, Mr. Clapp's, last gift to me before he, passed away.
Roxie, bewildered.
Your husband?
Such a generous man. Wonderful to me. More like a friend than a husband. That very night, just before he went to his reward, he offered me $200 a week alimony. I had just started my divorce, you know. Oh, my dear, didn't you see that? All the papers had it, with pictures of me and everything. And I said to him, "No, Clarence, you're too generous. I won't take it." Quite firmly I said it. 100, yes, or maybe 150, and not over 175 at the most.
Triumphantly.
Now, in the face of that, is it likely I'd do what they say I did? Would I trade an offer like that for a measly 10,000 insurance? Cigarette?
Roxie holds up an empty box and Velma goes to the stairs. Matron, indignantly.
Which the company won't pay. Think of them holding out on her like that. Oh, what women suffers from men.
But she must have killed him, for the papers all said.
Matron, severely.
Now listen, dearie, if you're going to believe what the papers say, you'll be suspicious of everybody here, including yourself. You'll get along better if you just forget all that and take each one as they come. That's my motto. And as for Velma, she's a pleasure to have around. No fightin', no ugly language, refined and genteel. A real lady if I ever saw one. And classy. All the papers say she's the dressiest one we've ever had.
She don't look like a Sheba to me. She must be 40 and dark and skinny. Men like 'em slim, but not skinny.
Matron, with quick diplomacy.
Well, of course she ain't got your looks. Oh my, no. But she is a lady, uses black narcissus perfume and never makes her bed.
Roxie, with a regretful glance at her bunk.
I thought you had to.
She hires Lucia.
Who's Lucia?
Velma returns with cigarettes.
That Italian woman.
who chopped her husband's head off while the star boarder held him down.
And she wasn't even drunk, my dear, not a drop.
Matron, reproachfully.
Now, dearie, you mustn't be narrow-minded.
In explanation to Roxie.
She's waiting a new trial. They gave her 14 years, but there's something wrong with the indictment or other. Anyhow, here she is, and she does Velma's laundry.
I'll get her too, and I won't make my bed either. I'm just as good as...
Matron, hastily.
Sure you are, both of you.
Velma, languidly.
I've always had everything done for me.
Roxie, recklessly.
So have I. Everything. A maid to bring in my breakfast?
Really?
Oh, yes. Breakfast in bed every morning.
Well, you gotta get up for your breakfast, that's rules. But you can have it brought in from Wooster's just around the corner. Anything you want, only $20 a week. And we'll all three eat together.
Song is heard again as the army conducts its lively questionnaire. Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? There appears at the end of the corridor, with scrubbing brush and bucket, a small, wiry woman of 40 or so, with a straggly mop of hair that is the weird color left by many peroxides. Her eyes are a washed-out blue, with now and then a wild, fanatic gleam. Her mouth is broad, filled with a fascinating mixture of natural and artificial teeth. There are deep wrinkles, almost cuts, around her mouth and eyes. She puts down her bucket and stands surveying the women. Suddenly, she bursts into wild shrieks of mirthless, uncontagious laughter. Shriek! She bends double. Shriek! She advances toward them. Liz, gasp.
Oh, it's so funny. So funny.
She's off again. Now, Liz.
Liz gives Matron a reassuring little pat.
Oh no, I'm not. Don't you worry now.
To others.
But it's just so funny.
Starts again on a wild spasm of laughter.
Hush, or I'll tell God on you.
Liz subsides instantly.
Aw, you wouldn't do that, would you, Mrs. Morton? 'Cause it is funny.
What's funny?
The three of us. You, her,
She points a skinny, eczemaed hand toward Velma.
And me, all here together. They call you the prettiest, her the stylishest, and me the queer one. We've all got our tags so folks will know us. We've come different roads. Mine's a long and hard one. It might have been different once, just once. But I went into a far country.
Goes on in the sing-song call of the revivalist.
Oh God, oh God, oh God!
To Velma.
Yours might have too. Several times you could have turned off, but dancing feet find sorrow.
To Roxie.
And you took a shortcut, that's all.
What are you talking about?
She's off, don't mind her. Go on away, Liz.
She thinks I'm crazy. I am sometimes, but when I ain't...
Her eyes flash triumphantly.
I got more sense than any of you. And right now, I ain't. I'm God's messenger, that's what I am.
Oh my, she's awful when she starts on that.
Liz, gaily.
And here we are now, the three of us.
To Velma.
You killed your husband for his insurance.
To Roxie.
And you put a bullet in your lover when he got tired of you.
That's a lie, you dirty...
Don't argue, it just makes her worse.
And I shot Jim, because he...
Her voice sinks to a hoarse whisper.
Laughed.
Because he wouldn't marry you.
Liz, decidedly alert again.
Nope. I'd asked him lots of times. We'd been living in sin for 7 years. Years of the locust. But this time, he laughed.
Quietly.
And I shot him. There was a candle sitting on the floor. You know, the good book says not to hide your light under a bushel. And he fell right by it. And I knelt beside him and prayed.
Look out for them that's all is reading the Bible and praying. Something's wrong someplace.
Liz, back in the revivalist character again.
And here we are, stained with the blood that only the Lamb of God can cleanse. Murderesses! Murderesses!
Shut up, you fool. You're not that, unless you're convicted.
Oh, yes, you are. It don't take no trial. I was a murderess the minute Jim fell. God judge me then. Right then. I can see him now.
Her eyes grow glassy, and her voice is shrill in horror.
Sitting there on his throne.
Gives a wild shriek. Matron rises and takes her by the arm.
Come on now, that's enough out of you. Upstairs now, go along.
Takes her shrieking to the stairs.
Well, that's a cheerful little playmate. What's her defense?
Insanity.
Is being crazy grounds?
Velma nods.
It may mean the asylum, and besides, it's so embarrassing.
Matron returns with a pack of cards from table.
Thank God there ain't many like her. Well, girls, what about a hand?
To Roxie.
Are you good at bridge?
Better at poker.
Oh no, dearie, bridge is all we play. Penny a point.
The bell rings and she goes to answer.
She always wins.
From you, maybe. But watch little Roxie, the girl gambler.
All right, but I warned you.
Warned me? Oh, you mean I've got to let her win?
Suit yourself.
Well, I'll be damned.
Matron calls from door.
It's your husband, Mrs. Hart.
Roxie springs up.
Did he bring my clothes?
Reaches for the battered suitcase the matron holds.
I'll have to look at him first to be sure there's nothing concealed.
Returns to table, followed by Roxie.
Ain't you gonna talk to him?
Roxie looks blank.
There at the screen.
Velma, bitterly, to Roxie.
That's your reception room. You play peekaboo through the bars.
Roxie to matron, who's inspecting the clothes.
Leave out the purple bangoline if...
Goes to screen.
Amos, did you bring the purple bangoline?
Evidently he answers, but the words are undistinguishable.
My God! Can't you do nothin' right? Terrible! Locked up all night in one of them sardine boxes, and I have to wash in cold water. What the hell are you walking the floor about? You got it easy, while I'm locked up here with God's messenger.
There's a flash and explosion outside. The cameramen have their picture of Amos at the screen. Matron hurries to the door.
It's them blame photographers.
Roxie and Velma preen for pictures.
Now, boys, none of that.
Babe, outside.
Hello, Mrs. Morton. I got my ticket all right.
Matron nods toward Amos.
But not him. It's against the rules. You know that, Mr. Maloney. Relatives is never allowed inside.
But just for a little picture? Have a heart, Mrs. Morton. Just this once. The first day, you know, with you here beside 'em.
Matron opens the door, and Babe enters, followed by Amos.
Come on, Obadiah. What, Amos? All right, Amos.
Velma goes upstairs at a nod from Matron. Babe blows Roxie a kiss and starts to set up camera. Amos makes a dash for Roxie, who starts to match his ardor, but sees the camera is not quite ready.
Roxie, my wife.
Wait a minute.
How did they treat you? By God, just remember this.
Strides up and down, glaring fiercely.
I ain't gonna have my wife.
Matron dangles keys.
Looky here, young man. Out you go.
Don't mind him. They dropped him when he's a baby.
To Amos.
Keep your clothes on, Habakkuk. She's sitting pretty and having the time of her young life. All for nothing.
For nothing? Say, boy, you've been reading the wrong ticker.
Now, hold 'em again, Hart, as you were.
Amos and Roxie resume stiff embrace.
That's right. Face the camera and smile. Just a little smile.
Flash bang.
Now you, here at the table.
Clears it of papers.
Ain't you the lucky girl, though, with all these pictures? And you can thank your stars you're in Chicago, where the poor working girls got a chance. In New York now, you gotta be a millionaire to make front page. You could shoot up the whole town and nobody gives a damn unless you're in the social register.
Roxie flounces down on top of the table, crossing her feet.
That's right, we want them $1 million knees. More?
She lifts skirt.
Just a little more.
Flash bang.
Done.
Gathers up equipment.
And I won't see you no more, sister, till the judgment day. So long.
Matron lets him out. Roxie, at table with Amos.
All right, then. I'll eat with the wops and niggers.
Amos, thundering.
No, you don't. My wife will have the best there is. 20 a week. Hell, what's that? I got a raise. 55 now.
My God.
Sure. The boss has been swell to me. Offered me a week's vacation, and when I got back from the inquest, the whole office crowded around and shook hands with me and wished me luck.
Well, it's just because you're my husband. You'd be nobody if it wasn't for me.
Amos, indignantly.
It's because I'm sticking by you. I guess there's not many guys would do it.
Well, whatever it is, you got a raise out of it, didn't you? And I've got to have money for laundry and making beds and cigarettes. And you know how a penny a point counts up.
Say, looky here.
Roxie, shrilly.
Do you want me to look like a cheapskate before all these people? All right. There's plenty of money in the world, you know, and you ain't got no corner on it. God, why did I ever marry you?
Amos takes out wallet and begins counting bills.
Will 10 do?
Yes, 20.
Gives a generous grab for the money. Amos, in alarm.
Yeah, what about me?
My God, can't you think of nothing but yourself?
The bell rings, and there is heard outside a rich voice, hypnotic in its suggestive power, with a minor undertone that's Gaelic.
Well, Mrs. Morton.
He enters, our hero, counsel for the defense, Billy Flynn. He's a little man, like Napoleon, and he carries himself with the corporal's air. A magnificent iron-gray mane, with a forelock he tugs at to convey the impression of thought, or tosses back now and then to reveal the Caesarean brow. The eyes are deep-set and keen. The nose starts out to be Semitic, but ends with an Irish tilt. The mouth is broad without being generous, and the jaw is pugilistic. He is dressed with careful carelessness. Tweed topcoat and fedora, pepper and salt sack suit, blue shirt with soft collar, and striped necktie with golden horseshoe. He buys on Michigan Boulevard, but follows the style of West Chicago. A millionaire would know his tailor, but a bricklayer would feel comfortably that his Sunday clothes beat Billy's. Matron, in a note of tragedy.
Oh, Mr. Flynn, the photographer's just gone.
That's all right. He got me downstairs.
The husband's here, too.
Good. Just the man I want to see.
She goes down the corridor at the left, and he stalks by Roxie without a word or look, straight to her husband.
Well, Hart?
Amos turns.
And what about me?
Amos, grandly.
Have a chair.
Flynn ignores invitation and repeats.
And what about me?
I didn't do quite as well as I hoped.
No?
But I will, all right? I will.
Take certificates, books, etc. from pocket.
Here's $500 on my insurance.
Roxie, shrilly.
Cash in your insurance? Not much you don't. That's mine.
Flynn's hand reaches it first.
That makes 1,000.
Yes, sir. And 300 that I borrowed.
Gives it to Flynn.
And 700 out of the building and loan.
2,000.
And that's all I got. So far.
Flynn, watching him keenly.
What about her father?
I phoned him yesterday. Long distance. And he'll probably raise some later.
Flynn bites his cigar and snaps out his words with an ugly look.
You damned liar. I phoned him too last night. And he told me just what he told you. That she went to hell 6 years ago, and she could stay there forever before he'd spend 1 cent to get her out.
Roxie, to Amos.
I told you not to try him.
Now, I don't give a damn where you get the money. That's your problem. Beg it, borrow it, any way.
I'll pay you $20 a week.
And where do I come in, you big stiff? What about me?
Shut up, you.
Roxie subsides.
I give you notes with interest, double to every cent.
No, you don't. None of that installment stuff. I wouldn't be bothered with your chicken feed. I play square, Hart, dead square. When you come to me yesterday, I didn't say, is she innocent? Is she guilty? Will it be an easy case or a hard one? Nothing like that, now did I? No, I said, have you got $5,000? And you said yes.
Eyes him in contempt.
You dirty liar. And I took your case, and I'll keep it. But you'll rot in jail before I bring it to trial.
Roxie, angrily to Amos.
See what you've done, you big...
Amos, trying to be nonchalant.
You needn't worry about your money. You'll get it all right.
Flynn, in well-simulated rage.
Get out! Get out! And don't come near me again till you got 3,000 in your fist.
Well, so long, Roxie.
Starts to kiss her, but she pushes him away.
Can the soft stuff.
See you Thursday.
And don't forget my dinner now. From Wooster's PDQ.
Amos goes slowly, and she softens her tone as she turns to the lawyer.
Listen, you didn't mean what you said about delaying my case, did ya?
Flynn takes a cigar and doesn't answer.
Couldn't I pay you?
Flynn, unconcerned.
That depends on your bank account.
Roxie softly, laying her hand on his arm.
I mean, couldn't we be friends?
Flynn, vigorously.
Good. You've got that out of your system. Now listen. I'm not interested in your looks, your age, your sex, nothing except as it affects the case. You mean just one thing to me, $5,000. Get that.
Roxie takes the slap philosophically, lights a cigarette, reseats herself on the table.
Suit yourself, but if you change your mind...
Forget it.
Draws up chair and goes on in businesslike tone.
Now, that sob sister from the Evening Star is coming.
Mary Sunshine?
And the woman from the Ledger.
I won't see her.
You've talked so much, you can't stop now.
Grimly.
If you tell enough lies, they're bound to forget a few.
But not her. I'll be damned if I do.
Flynn, pleasantly.
You'll be hanged if you don't. And, by the way, pipe down on that swearing. What we've got to do now is go out for sympathy through the press. The story of your life starts tomorrow in the Star. From convent to jail.
What?
My secretary's writing it this afternoon. Signed with your name, of course.
Gee, an authoress.
Beautiful southern home, every luxury and refinement.
She listens with interest.
Parents dead, educated at the Sacred Heart, fortune swept away, runaway marriage.
Severely.
You're a lovely, innocent child bewildered by what has happened. Young, full of life, lonely. You were caught up by the mad whirl of a great city. She gives a red-hot picture of a cabaret life. That jazz stuff is always good. And you were drawn inevitably like a moth to the flame.
Roxie drinks it in, open-mouthed.
And now the mad whirl has ceased. A butterfly crushed on the wheel. And you sob with remorse for the life you have taken.
Oh, God.
Cut out God. Stay where you're better acquainted. And don't overdo it. Go as far as you like with Mary Sunshine. She'll swallow hook, line, and sinker, for that's what she wants. But easy with the Ledger woman. The important thing is regret. You're sorry. You'd give your life gladly to bring him back.
Roxie drops pose.
Say, why did I do it? What's my defense? Was I drunk or crazy?
Flynn shakes head.
Nobody cares about a lunatic unless they've got money. Whenever they ask why, all you remember is a fearful quarrel. He threatened to kill you. You can see him coming toward you with that awful look in his eyes, that wild look, and, get this now, you both grabbed for the gun. See? Self-defense. Whatever else we weave in afterwards, that's there from the start. You've spent a sleepless night tossing about.
Walking the floor.
The bell rings and Flynn looks down the corridor.
Here's Sunshine now.
With a look of dismay at Roxie's brilliant garb.
Oh, my God, that dress!
Roxie, resentfully.
What's the matter with it?
You ought to have something simple, plain, dark.
Wait a minute.
Dashes to suitcase and waves a black dress at him.
How's this?
Flynn nods.
Mm-hmm. And slick down your hair.
As she starts off.
And don't forget, regret, remorse.
I got you. And we both grabbed for the gun.
She runs lightly upstairs with the dress clasped in her arms, as the matron admits Mary Sunshine, who is really Pollyanna's older sister. She is a soulful semi-blonde with protruding front teeth and adenoids, who talks with a slightly affected lisp and boundless enthusiasm. Flynn holds out a hand but doesn't rise.
Well, here she is, Sunshine herself. Nice little story you had last night.
Isn't this wonderful? You're just the person I want to see. How is she today?
Flynn shakes his head gravely.
Oh, terrible strain, terrible strain. But she's a brave little woman.
Oh, I feel so sorry for her when I think of all she must have gone through to be driven to a step like that.
Only a woman can understand.
But she has everyone's sympathy. That will help her in this awful hour.
Fumbles in bag and brings out a handful of telegrams and letters.
We're paying $10 a day for the best letter, you know, and some of these are just too lovely. I cried and cried over this one.
Hands him letter on pink paper with purple ink. Flynn reads gravely, quoting a line now and then.
The old heartbreaking story. There but for the grace of God go I. And the woman always pays. True, true.
And here's one that's just darling. From 5 college boys, and they clubbed together and sent her a huge box of roses and lilies. Isn't that sweet? It's too bad they won't let her have flowers. There are 8 boxes downstairs now.
Matron comes in from corridor, followed by Jake.
Just run on up, Miss Sunshine.
Oh, may I?
Goes on upstairs. Jake waves friendly salute to Flynn and smiles cynically after Sunshine.
Little Sunshine gathering tears.
Nice little story this morning, Jake.
Jake pulls up chair.
Used your name 6 times.
Flynn takes flask and pours drink.
Yeah, nice little story.
Jake drinks.
Anything new?
Flynn shakes head.
Indictment tomorrow, of course.
Drinks.
Bail?
Bail? Hell no. They ain't even got money from me. A fine case you got me.
Jake grins.
Well, charge it up to publicity. You'll get enough.
Oh, no, Henry. I like to see my name in print all right, but it don't take the place of the little old dollar, cash in advance. And so far, this guy hasn't scraped up but $2,000.
Say, why not a sale?
Sale?
Sure, an auction. They got 4 rooms of junk.
Second-hand furniture don't bring enough to...
But look whose it is! You should have seen him at Muldoon's. Furniture, books, clothes, everything at triple prices. And he was nothing but a garage quick fake. Another Ponzi, while this girl is Chicago's latest slayer. Or was the last time I phoned the office.
Flynn, thoughtfully.
That's not a bad idea.
Jake, indignantly.
It's the best little idea on LaSalle Street. If her stuff's paid for. Call her down.
Flynn bellows at foot of stair.
Mrs. Hart, Roxie?
Why, they'll go wild at the chance to own a teacup drank out of by a real live murderess. And of course, if she dies by due process of law, the value is enhanced. We could use a carload of underwear. And Victrola records. I'll kill a chicken over 'em. Think of owning the record she played while the boyfriend lay dying.
Slaps Flynn on the back.
Great stuff, Billy, great stuff.
Go to it, kid, if you can raise my $3,000.
Roxie enters. She wears a black dress, yes, but sleeveless with huge scarlet flower on one shoulder and hula-hula skirt of red fringe. Her hair, glistening from a wet brush, lies smooth like a medieval saint's, and she turns sad eyes from Flynn to Jake. Jake, excitedly.
Say, Is it paid for? Your furniture?
Roxie drops the sad pose and flops into a chair.
My God, are they coming here? Tell them they got the wrong party, that I'm out, that...
Gives up.
Can you beat it? No respect for grief at all.
Oh, hell.
I used to hang crepe on the door, but it never worked more'n once.
Jake rallies to Flynn.
Oh, well, what's a few hundred?
To Roxie.
Listen, kid, we're going to have an auction and sell off your things.
Roxie sits up.
Like hell you are.
Flynn coolly.
Like hell we are.
Well, there's not enough to pay you, even if...
Hastily.
My things are grand, perfectly grand, but you'd never get what I paid for 'em.
Jake solemnly.
5 times as much.
She stares. He takes auctioneer's stand and holds up imaginary articles.
The mirror of Marie Antoinette. Carrie Nation's hatchet. The bed of Roxie Hart. Why, they're museum pieces, my dear.
Roxie squirms with delight.
Museum pieces? Oh, gee.
Sure, you're famous. Why, the rubberneck buses are already crying. Half a block to your left is the home of Roxie Hart, the beautiful jazz slayer.
Roxie genuinely impressed.
My God, tell my husband that, won't you? He thinks it's him.
And they're tearing up the shrubbery for souvenirs.
Roxie with animation.
There's a lot of poker chips and cards that'd be cute for that, and little ashtrays that we used that night.
Jake nodding.
His last ashes.
Roxie gives a little cry.
Oh, and all my dresser things.
Oh, Lord, yes. There's a fortune there.
The crystal bottles and atomizer.
Jake holds aloft.
The mystic perfume that lured young Casey from his home. What am I offered? 28.30? The magic scent.
I always use black narcissus. And my jewels, an honest-to-God 3-carat, and a diamond and platinum bracelet and pearls, real Japanese pearls.
Flynn, alert to Jake.
We'd better keep them out.
Jake nods.
And passing on to the wearing apparel.
Roxie, firmly.
Wait, if I sell my clothes...
And you're going to.
The first $500 goes to buy more.
After my fee.
After the furniture people.
After nothing. It's my clothes, and it's 'cause I wore 'em that they're museum pieces. The first 500. My God, do you think I'm a Cupie?
You will need a different get-up for the trial.
There's a winter coat with caracal fur.
To hell with your winter coat. How much underwear have you got?
Roxie beams.
Oh, there's a closet full of them. Rose with fur all around it. And a green georgette. And the blue. You know, the one I wore the night.
With triumphant look at Flynn.
We both grabbed for the gun.
Jake regretfully.
Unfortunately, the blue is State's Exhibit B.
And dozens of...
Scurries to the suitcase.
Here, take these too.
Lays a few garments aside, then tosses rest back in case.
Take 'em all and bring me some new ones, quick.
Pauses, gives herself a reflective wriggle, then stoops and swiftly removes her garters. Jake waves them aloft.
Bravo! You've read about 'em, boys. Here they are. When am I offered for the famous turquoise garters?
Breaks off in alarm as she seems bent on further disapparelment.
Stop! This is not strip poker.
Roxie straightens with dignity.
I was only rolling my stockings.
They drop to her ankles, and Jake retreats. Flynn, with a look toward stare.
Sunshine's coming.
Jake hastily grabs suitcase.
Remember, kid, this is my story.
Roxie nods.
The first 500.
She sits at table rolling hose as they leave and Sunshine comes down the stairs. Sunshine flutters in, pauses a moment at the sight of the curiously bent figure rolling hose, then goes to her.
My dear, oh my dear, what is it?
Roxie lifts sweet, tragic face.
I've given all that a woman can give.
Sunshine grabs notebook.
Yes, you've given your all.
And now the mad whirl is over. A butterfly crushed on the wheel. You know, a butterfly, moth and the flame.
With that lovely, wistful smile, Sunshine scribbles.
And what caused you to...
Roxie, sadly, with Liz's mystic intonation.
It might have been different once, but dancing feet find sorrow.
Dancing. Jazz? The Charleston? Shall we say the Charleston, Mrs. Hart? And, drink. You had been drinking?
Roxie, with Velma's ease.
Oh, yes, I was drunk, my dear. Dead drunk.
Oh, lovely, lovely. My paper's dry, you know. So you would advise girls to avoid jazz and drink. What else, Mrs. Hart? How did you happen to... Just why did you... shoot?
Roxie grows dramatic.
I was mad. Crazy. Insane.
Oh, dear.
Roxie, hastily.
Not enough for the asylum, you know. Over with right away.
Sunshine nods.
Temporary insanity.
For I really have the tenderest heart in the world. Wouldn't hurt a worm. Not even.
With Velma's tremolo.
A worm.
Sunshine, sympathetically.
And what brought it on?
Roxie, her eyes grow dark and her emotion rises.
He threatened my life.
What a terrible man!
Oh, he was. Very terrible.
Matron enters with 2 monstrous baskets, one tied with pink ribbon, which she places on the table and examines.
It's your supper. 2 of 'em.
Roxie looks blank.
2?
One from Wooster's and a fancy chicken dinner from someplace with a note.
Roxie opens and reads.
My heart and hand are at your feet. With you my life would be complete. Yours with pleasure, an unknown admirer. Poetry! Ain't that romantic?
Sunshine takes note.
I'll thank him for you through the paper.
Roxie arranges food.
You might tell him, too, that I like Russian dressing. Shortcake. Say, he's a regular guy.
Matron disappears with other basket. Roxie falls to eating heartily, and Sunshine watches, fascinated.
They'll all be so glad to know you can eat.
Roxie stops short and resumes character.
It's choking me, every mouthful. But I feel it's my duty.
Oh, it is. You must keep your strength.
Roxie forces herself to a more languid pace.
The first bite I've tasted since. He went to his reward.
Presses handkerchief to her eyes. Sunshine pats her hand.
Dear Mrs. Hart.
Oh, if only I could bring him back. How gladly I'd give my own life.
Chokes with emotion. Takes a few healthy bites.
And sleep? I can't sleep either. All night I walked about, tossing the floor.
Oh, my dear.
Roxie, in hollow tone.
Always his face coming toward me.
Her emotion rises as she lives through it all.
With that terrible look, that wild look in his eyes, we both grabbed for the gun.
She reaches forth her hand and clasps a roll of bread.
And I shot.
Dramatic pause.
To save my honor.
The Salvation Army starts up again. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by.
Ain't it grand? The Salvation Army. I love to hear 'em. I'm awful refined. You see, I was born in a convent.
Continues talking and eating while Sunshine writes as the curtain falls. End Act 1. Act 2 of Chicago by Maurine Watkins. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 2. Same scene, 1 month later, early afternoon of May the 3rd. A stolid figure in blue calico sits sewing by the great end windows. Liz, with bucket and brush, is busy scouring the floor. Through the half-opened bunk door can be seen a reclining figure that looks very much like our friend Roxie. The center of the stage, however, both physically and emotionally, is held by Velma, who stands on top of one of the white tables and turns slowly, while the matron turns up the hem of her dress, making it now a good 20 inches instead of 16 from the floor. It is a new Velma. 10 years at least have gone from her age. Smooth, lithe, clear-eyed, and well-groomed. Her shingle bob fairly glistens with something or other, and there is a touch of tangerine rouge, from the huge makeup box on the table, on each soft cheek, and her lips are arched in a scarlet bow that matches her dress of lipstick red, which certainly catches the eye. At present, she is in the agony of suppressed hysterics. Tears would spoil her makeup, and uncontrolled rage distort her face, so she keeps a calm mask and rolls out a continuous flow of bitter invective in a gentle monotone.
Damn Marshall Field.
Matron punches dress so Velma can feel where it stops.
Is that short enough?
Liz pauses for a glance and giggles.
Oh my, that'll bring the jury to your feet all right.
Roxie comes out from her bunk and leans against doorsill, eyeing Velma with venom.
My God, what house have they raided now?
Velma wheels and Liz giggles.
So loud it woke me up. Lord, I'll bet every bull in the stockyard hears it and is gnashing his teeth.
Velma, tearfully to matron.
It's true. Think of it. Their last picture of me in this? Damn Marshall Field.
Points trembling to empty soup box on table.
To send an empty box?
Matron peers in box again, while Roxie looks like the kitty that's gulped a canary.
Queerest thing I ever heard of. Just a bunch of tissue paper, not even the bill. But you can get your money back.
Money? What the hell do I care for money? It goes to the jury this afternoon, and I can't stand it.
Now, dearie, it's certainly got style.
Roxie snorts.
But what's that? The other had meaning. Mr. Hessler picked it out himself. A beautiful soft green that would stand out in the crowded courtroom. You never saw such a crowd.
I had a crowd too.
But not like mine.
Liz shrilly.
I did too. Didn't I, Mrs. Morton?
Velma, ignoring her.
Every seat taken, the hallway jammed.
A lot you know about crowds. Now at my auction...
Liz screams.
Shut up about your old auction.
There were thousands and thousands.
How do you know?
The papers all said so. Didn't they, Mrs. Morton?
Yeah, and they're a bunch of darn liars.
Complacently to Velma.
We see our crowds, don't we?
A handful in a courtroom.
There's hundreds of them.
Thousands.
Millions.
Roxie in impotent rage.
You goddamn bunch of four-flushers.
Matron bangs her hand down on table.
Now, Roxie.
Roxie goes in cell.
Aw, tie it outside.
If you've got a headache, sleep it off. If you ain't, go on upstairs where you belong. I've had enough ragging out of you today.
Roxie turns for a last shot.
Anyway, they paid for my auction, and that's the rancid test. While you're just a free show. That's all.
Bangs the door. Liz chants in sing-song.
Roxie's mad and I'm glad.
Shut up.
Liz returns to scrubbing.
Jealous. That's what she is. Jealous.
Roxie reopens the door with dignity.
When my lawyer comes...
Matron looks up from hemming process.
Now get that out of your head. Mr. Flynn ain't got time to be running over here whenever you take a notion.
Roxie loftily.
This ain't a notion. It's something very important.
Once in the papers, that's what it is.
And he is coming. I sent word by Mary Sunshine.
Slams the door after her.
The next time she butts in on an interview the way she did this morning. My God, can't you hurry?
Maggie and me never dolled up this way, did we, Maggie?
The figure in the rocking chair doesn't answer.
Yeah, and look what you got, too. The rest of your life in Jolet.
Liz, shrilly.
I don't care. I told them what I thought, didn't I? The judge and jury, everybody.
Flings her arms out in dramatization.
Hang me, I said. That's what I said. Build a platform right down to the state of Madison and invite the whole town. Reserve seats for everybody so they can all come and have a good time. That's what I said, right to the judge.
To Velma.
And that's more'n you've done for all your clothes. You ain't said a word now, have you? Not a word.
My lawyer won't let me.
Yeah, he knows once you opened your mouth they'd hang you.
That's a lie. They can tell just by looking at me I'm a lady. That's why it's so important what I wear. Something quiet and refined. The green would have been just right.
Suddenly,
this won't do. It simply won't do.
Ready to cry, she jumps down from the table.
Oh, I could kill Marshall Field.
Stalks upstairs in rage. The bell rings, matron answers, and Roxie peeps out from cell.
Is that Mr. Flynn?
Say, what are you gonna do? Make a will?
Roxie, darkly.
It's all right what I'm gonna do. I want him.
Roxie's mad and I'm glad.
Matron calls from door.
Maggie, you. At the screen.
Figure at window starts up bewildered. She's a rough peasant type, 35 or so, with straggly black hair and large plain features. Liz nods toward screen.
Go on, it's your husband and kid.
Maggie gives a guttural cry, drops her sewing in the chair, and scurries heavily to the screen. Liz trails after her. The matron is still at the door, and no one is looking. Roxie comes out from her cell with the green dress she has stolen, runs quickly, and puts it back in the Marshall Field box, then extracts lipstick from the makeup box and hurls it through the bars as Jake and the matron enter. She then melts away to her cell.
Velma's dressing. Do you want to see her?
Jake throws admission card on table.
No thanks. I'm waiting for this one.
Matron reads card.
My land, are they sending her?
Jake grins.
Due this afternoon from the Des Plaines station. And she's a hellcat for sure. That's what they call her. Go-to-Hell Kitty.
Matron, tragically.
On top of everything else.
Jake tosses hat on table and takes chair.
What else?
2 convictions this week. Ain't it terrible? That allus gives everybody the blues.
Well, Velma will cheer him up. She's getting away with the murder all right. Why, the judge himself says she's the classiest one he's ever had.
Well, I hope so. Another day of this dressing and I'll be going crazy.
Goes on down the corridor.
What a life, what a life.
Liz, unconsciously imitating the matron.
And on top of all that, Roxie's sulking like the devil.
Roxie?
Liz lowers her voice with warning look toward Roxie's bunk.
Shh! She'll hear you and pounce.
Jake, amused.
What's the matter with her?
Says she's got a headache, but it ain't. No siree. A broken nose, that's what it is. Out of joint because Velma's it now instead of her. No more presents or letters, except from that darn fool admirer.
A slick guy for free advertising.
Papers, Mrs. Morton. Everybody's making over Velma, and she won't even help her dress or wish her luck. Mean, that's what she is. Just like my jury. 'Cause I wanted 'em to hang me, they wouldn't. Spite work, that's what it was.
Never mind, you can appeal.
Liz straightens up.
And go through another trial? Not much I don't. I didn't mind going over once. The lawyers and judge has gotta have something to do, and I don't mind helping 'em once. But I ain't got time for such foolishness again. The folks likes their fun, and I done my part.
Smiles in pleased recollection.
Didn't I?
Jake also smiles.
You certainly did.
My lawyer had me talk to show him I was crazy, but I fooled him all right, didn't I?
Begins rocking and sobbing and wailing. Roxie, sharply, opening door.
Shut up, Liz. You're making my head worse.
Glad of it. Hope it busts.
A shoe sails by. Roxie limps out to retrieve it and becomes angelic at the sight of Jake.
Why, Mr. Callahan.
Hello, Carrots.
Go away. He's mine. He's having an interview with me.
To Jake.
ain't you?
Tries to push Roxie back with her soapy hands. Roxie administers a good sharp slap, and Liz cries.
Hush, or I'll tell God on you.
Liz, muttering.
Go on and tell. You're such an old liar, he won't believe you.
Returns to scrubbing. Roxie, sweetly, to Jake.
Oh, Mr. Callahan, I'm so glad it's you. You've been so kind to me. So magnanimous.
Says that to all of them. Don't you believe her?
Roxie, soulfully, to Jake.
And now I'm going to do something for you. It's a story.
All right, spill it.
Roxie, wearily.
I can't sleep. My head hurts. I've had a terrible night. Tossed and wept. Sobbed remorse.
Jake gets up in disgust.
Oh my God, don't start that again. Nobody gives a damn how you're sleeping.
Roxie, shrilly.
They do too. Don't you remember?
Follows him.
Sure, once, when the story was new, but he's dead now. You'll have to pull a better line than that.
Roxie, with sudden inspiration.
I've got it. A scoop for you. A front-page story.
Jake, skeptically.
Yeah?
It's a dress. You can raffle it off, sell chances on it.
Takes Velma's green dress from the box. He shakes his head in rejection, and she goes on with inspiration.
The dress I wore the first time I ever went wrong.
Oh my God.
Backs away from her.
It's a museum piece.
Follows him.
Then put it back in the case.
Roxie, dangerously.
I'll give it to another paper.
Just try it, you little publicity hound. You've sure got it bad. Now listen. You'll have another fling at front page when your trial starts, but until then, there's not a chance in the world. But they've caught Kitty Baxter.
Oh my God. Another one?
And she's got you faded, Roxie. She's a tiger cat, and you're just a little white kitten. But I will do this. Use you in a picture with her. The Jar Slayer meets the Bandit Queen.
Nothing doing.
Whole cheese or none, huh? Well, sue it yourself. But if you can't play ball, you'd better curl up.
Nods towards cell.
And go to sleep for the next 4 months.
Roxie, genuinely startled.
4 months? It ain't gonna take that long.
Sure. The September calendar. Maybe October. Billy goes abroad for July and August.
What? Hoofs to Europe on my money. The clothes I sold off my back to pay him? And I stay cooped up here?
Her eyes flash.
Do you think I'm gonna stand for that?
Jake, calmly.
Sure. What can you do about it?
Roxie, determinedly.
I don't know, but...
Taps foot, thinking.
God damn it. And I got my clothes all planned for a summer trial.
The bell rings. Moans and wails are heard from Maggie at the end of the screen, and out of sympathy, Liz starts up also. Sunshine comes in and stops in chagrin at the sight of Jake.
Oh, dear.
Jake grins.
I beat you, but we're both early.
Roxie goes to her confidentially.
Oh, Miss Sunshine, I've got something very important to tell you. Something.
Sunshine slips out of her grasp with a sweet smile.
Later, my dear. I've got a message for Velma first.
Goes on upstairs. In the meantime, Matron has herded Maggie and her visitors, dimly seen through the screen, down toward the elevator. Maggie, weeping great sobs and wails.
Mein baby! Mein baby! Give her to me!
Matron grasps her arm and tries to draw her away.
Shut up, you!
Maggie clings to screen with both hands.
Let me see her. Just let me see her. Once.
Shut up. You can't see her, do you hear?
To man outside.
Go on away. Your time's up.
To elevator man.
Take 'em down, Tom.
Once. Let me hold her.
Runs along the screen like an animal and gives a final piercing wail as the elevator clicks.
That's enough out of you now. Your baby's gone. Do you understand? Gone.
What's the row? Who's she?
Moonshine Maggie.
Ah, the hunyak they nab for sewing booze.
Get her to tell you about it. She's a scream. Maggie, come here.
Woman comes slowly.
What's the matter, Maggie? Why don't you go with your baby?
Maggie, simply, looking up through her tears.
They won't let me.
Who won't let you?
Uncle Sam.
Crying again.
Oh, Mrs., please, Mrs.
Here, wait a minute. Why won't he let you? You killed a man, that's why. You're a bad girl.
To Jake, in enjoyment.
She always cries at that.
To Maggie, encouragingly.
Come on, tell us about it.
Pointing to Jake with a burst of inspiration.
Here's your Uncle Sam now.
Maggie peers through fingers at Jake.
You my Uncle Sam?
Matron, pleased with her genius.
Sure, and he can help you if you just...
Maggie flings herself on knees before Jake in wild earnestness.
Oh, Mister, Uncle Sam, let me go. My baby need me. Maggie not bad.
Wait a minute. Why did you kill him, Maggie?
Roxie, perched on the table smoking, watches thoughtfully the scene that follows. Maggie clasps her hands on Jake's knees and her eyes search his.
Me not kill him, mister.
Pulls the words out one by one and gestures.
He come to our house. Mine husband, me, mine baby, 2 months old she was, a little baby.
Sobs.
Forget the kid. Go on.
Jake, gently.
Who came, Maggie?
Johann. Him. Christmas Eve.
Jake to Matron.
This Christmas.
A year ago. Been waiting trial.
Jake to Roxie.
See? And you are grown over 4 months.
She tosses her head.
And he say, give me drink, Maggie. And I give him. And he drink, I drink, mine husband, all.
Grows distressed.
And next day, men come for me and say, I kill him, me.
Beats her breast and sobs again.
Found him dead in a ditch. Too much moonshine.
Jake, soberly.
Gotta know your bootlegger these days.
And they took me away, and I not see mine baby just there.
Points to screen.
Oh, Uncle Sam, mine baby need me.
Funny, ain't it, the way she takes on over that kid?
Did they use it at the trial?
Matron shakes her head.
Lord, what rotten management.
Oh, mister, please, give me mine baby.
Starts sobbing and wailing. Matron takes her arm.
That's enough now. You can't have your baby. You're a bad girl.
Starts her to the stairs. Maggie shrieks.
But mine baby.
Shut up. Nobody cares about you or your baby.
Follows her up the stairs. Jake soberly.
Yep, nobody cares.
Liz bursts into shrill laughter.
It's 'cause we ain't got bobbed hair and wear cotton stockings, Maggie. That's what it is.
Bell rings and Matron answers.
What do you reckon a jury thinks about?
Juries don't think. They acts.
But what counts most?
Just being a woman.
Yeah? Look at Maggie.
That wasn't the jury's fault. She had a bum lawyer. Do you remember the Holland case? She fed Lysol to her 2 stepchildren, and the baby died. The last day of the trial, they had the other one run down the aisle crying, Mama, Mama, and the jury sent her home to her husband and the dear little one who needed her. And now this Hunyak. A decent lawyer with a sob like that would have the jury wiping its eyes and giving her a medal. Gee, it gets me, wasting a kid that way.
Shakes his head regretfully as he saunters down the corridor. Voices upstairs. Good luck, Velma. Happy days. Bye-bye, old-timer. Velma enters, followed by Sunshine in beige coat dress with slip-on gloves, scarlet gardenia, carrying a blue dress.
And we'll sail the 16th, if everything comes out all right.
to matron, holding up blue dress.
I'm taking the blue, so if you don't like this, I can change.
Goes to makeup box.
Just a little more color. Beige is so trying.
Carefully adds rouge.
You better hurry. The bailiff's waiting.
Velma, with genuine tragedy.
My God, the lipstick's gone.
The matron dashes to her. They search frantically.
Yes, it is gone.
Here, take mine.
Velma reaches for it eagerly, then sinks in despair.
But it's rose, and I need tangerine.
Velma clasps her hand to her head in frenzy.
God, I can never face the jury now.
Staggers to the door.
Well, you gotta go anyway.
Roxie grabs Sunshine as she tries to follow Velma.
Oh, Miss Sunshine, I've got a scoop for you. It's a letter from the guy who bought my garters, and he's going on a hunger strike until I'm freed.
Sunshine tries to pull away. Roxie lowers her tone mysteriously.
And I've got a package, a dress, and I want you to send it back and tell him it ain't refined to take clothes from men.
There's a noise in the hall, the sound of scuffling, muffled oaths, and a husky voice snarls, "You goddamn bums!" Sunshine rushes away, leaving Roxie alone in the middle of the floor. She stamps her foot and once more retires to her cell in rage. Matron at door.
No, you needn't. And if she tries any biting here, I'll have 'em pull every tooth in her head.
Enter the Baxter girl, a wiry young tough with insolent eyes set deep in a thin white face, square hard jaw, and straight scarlet mouth now drawn tight. She wears a rough topcoat over sweater and skirt, and a velvet tam over a matted curly bob. There's a moment's silence as she saunters to the middle of the floor and takes in the room, the white walls, the bunks, Liz kneeling like a statue, Sunshine quivering with excitement, Jake slouched against the wall, the matron watchful and waiting. She swings herself up on the table, takes off her hat, and runs grimy hand through grimier head. Sunshine tremulously.
Oh, Miss Baxter.
Kitty turns.
I'm from the Evening Star. Mary Sunshine from the Evening Star, and...
Falters under Kitty's gaze.
And we'd like for you... Everyone is so interested. I wonder if you'd mind just saying a word or two?
Kitty, agreeably.
Sure. I'll say 3. Go to hell!
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Matron, severely.
Now look here, Kitty. That's no way to talk. The young lady...
Kitty, impatiently to Jake.
Get into this. I can't fight with old women, and I eat children like her for breakfast.
Nods towards Sunshine.
What's on your chest? Spit it out.
Do you remember me?
Kitty shakes head flippantly.
I've seen so many handsome faces in the last 2 days.
Jake, quietly.
I was at the show-up when Mickey pointed you out.
Kitty, eagerly.
You what? What did he say when I'd gone? Tell me!
Goes into a rage.
Damn him! If it wasn't for him, that dirty squealer, I wouldn't be here.
Sunshine, tremulously.
Oh, Miss Baxter, are you sorry?
You little fool! Of course I'm sorry. Who wants to get caught? And I'd made my getaway if...
Pretty slick.
Wasn't it, though? Past 3 cops. And if I hadn't waited for him...
Turns her back, and when she faces them again, her face is wet with tears of rage.
Oh, women are fools.
Matron, sympathetically.
I never knew a killing yet that a man wasn't back of it.
Jake, easily.
And this other guy.
Kitty, swiftly.
What other guy?
Jake, with a knowing look.
Say, don't you think we know?
I know damn well you don't.
Don't you think Mickey told me?
Mickey don't know. God and me are the only ones, and we don't tell.
It would help your case.
Yes, indeed, Miss Baxter.
I've heard that line for days now, and get this. I don't squeal. They'll send me up, I guess. Maybe I'll swing. But I'll die like a lady.
Jake, Heartily.
Attaboy, Kitty.
Sunshine, hurriedly.
Oh, you won't swing. Women never swing.
Say, I wear skirts, but I got guts. And I don't yell King's X when I'm caught. And I'll get mine all right. You see, I didn't just kill a man. What's a little murder? But this was a stick-up, would you believe it? An Ingersoll watch and $4. And a man accidental like gets bumped off. Oh, yes, they'll get me. You can poison your husband and shoot your lover, but the pocketbook hits 'em where they live. Even a Jowry man has $4 in an Ingersoll, and that makes me a dangerous woman. Think of it. Me, Kitty.
Slumps in dejection.
Caught on a job like that.
How long have you, been banditing?
Say, for the last 10 years I've carried a gun, and most girls carry a powder puff.
Flippantly.
A direct descendant of Captain Kidd.
Roxie opens the door, Kitty turns, and the two stare at each other in instant and thorough hatred.
What about you, Angel Face? Don't you want in on this?
That's Roxie Hart, Kitty.
And who the hell is she?
Matron, proudly.
Prettiest one we've ever had.
My God, what is this, a beauty contest?
You've read about her.
Kitty, coolly.
I don't read news. I make it.
Roxie flares.
So do I. A damn sight more than you ever will.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, that's so. 35 columns and 22 pictures.
Hell, what's this? If I told you all I know, it would make a dictionary.
Two reporters.
Wouldn't it?
Sunshine, afraid to breathe.
Oh, yes, Miss Baxter. It's so significant at this age. Youth and jazz and the quest for...
Shut up!
To Jake.
What's her racket anyway?
Roxie, on verge of raging tears.
You know what I did.
Sunshine, trembling.
A man. Another man.
Ah, yes, your sweetie. Killed him rather than lose him. I remember. Say, that's old stuff.
To Roxie.
Move on, sister. You're dead and don't know it.
Roxie screaming.
I am not dead. I'll show you.
She grabs Kitty's hair, all ready for a grand feminine fight, but the tiger girl tosses her off. She starts back for more, but the matron interferes.
Now, Roxie!
Gives her a push that sends her spinning toward her cell. Roxie spits like a kitten at her enemy, who triumphantly seats herself on the table.
What's a racket anyway? Watch me bust it.
Jake to Kitty.
Shoot the works, kid.
Roxie paces up and down in thought and rage as Sunshine and Jake cluster around Kitty.
Tell us just how you happened to start. What were the factors in your life that caused you to take it up? Was it jazz? The thirst for excitement? The quest for adventure? Are you a thrill slayer?
Unable to endure it any longer, Roxie gives a sudden shriek and crumples in a faint. The matron, Sunshine, and Jake wheel from Kitty. Liz stops scrubbing and sits up like a squirrel. Kitty, from the table, watches in disgust.
Good Lord.
Oh, what is it? She's fainted.
My God, on top of everything else.
They all rush and kneel beside her.
Water!
Water! Water!
She rushes over with her bucket of suds and is intensely disappointed when Jake prevents the administration of her aid.
Has she been sick?
Jake to matron.
Shall I get the doctor?
Kitty, contemptuously from her perch.
Ain't that just like a woman?
Roxie moans with eyes still closed.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh.
Matron bathes her head briskly.
There.
Roxie opens her eyes and smiles wanly. Roxie, weakly and sweetly, little Eva en route to heaven.
I'm all right. Don't worry about me.
She's coming around all right.
To Roxie, who tries to sit up.
Aren't you ashamed to...
Roxie sinks back, gasping.
I can't breathe.
Here, help me with her.
Jake nods toward the cell.
In there?
Matron shakes her head.
No, on the table. Air.
Sunshine gets a pillow from the cell and brushes Kitty aside to make room for the improvised cot.
Look out!
Jake lifts the drooped body.
There.
To Kitty, impatiently.
Clear on out, upstairs. Show her, Liz.
Kitty follows Liz in swaggering silence, and the matron disappears for camphor and ammonia. Sunshine and Jake stand looking down at Roxie. Roxie revives a little, crying.
Oh, dear, dear, I can't bear it.
Her slender frame shakes with sobs.
Bear what, darling? Tell me.
Go away. Let me alone.
Sobbing more heartily.
Here in jail. Oh, dear. My baby.
The matron returns on this word, and there's grand astonishment all around.
Baby?
Roxie, faintly, wanly.
When my child is born.
Jake, in genuine alarm.
Good God! Say, I must get the doctor.
Matron applies smelling salts, ammonia, etc.
I knew she wasn't well, but I never dreamt this.
Sunshine in hushed ecstasy.
Isn't it too divine? Stork hovers over county jail.
To Jake.
Could you ask for anything better?
Jake, dubiously.
No. Just so it don't light right now.
Sunshine, superiorly.
Don't be silly. It won't.
How do you know?
No such luck.
Matron, with sudden inspiration.
That's why she wanted her lawyer.
Jake revives.
Gosh, it's a whale of a story. Think what it will do to a case. Young mother awaits trial.
Sunshine corrects.
Girl mother awaits trial. Isn't it too wonderful?
To matron.
Was one ever born here before?
Matron shakes head.
Not in my day.
The bell rings and she goes to answer. Roxie tries to sit up. Sunshine, tenderly.
No, darling, lie still.
Adjusts her pillow. Roxie, faintly and sweetly.
I don't want to bother you.
Sunshine purrs.
Dear Mrs. Hart, tell Sunshine all.
Jake, awkwardly.
Feeling better?
Roxie, in hollow voice.
Oh, yes, I'm all right.
Sinks back exhausted to disprove words. Matron admits Mr. Flynn, who tries to conceal his perturbation over what the matron has evidently told him. Sunshine skips to meet him.
Oh, Mr. Flynn, isn't it too marvelous?
It's a knockout, isn't it?
What's this, young lady? Why didn't you let me know?
Roxie looks up sweetly.
I did try to, but you wouldn't come.
Yes. I was busy. Well, it's all right now.
Roxie, with sweet bitterness.
All right.
Sunshine hops up and down.
Isn't it gorgeous? Aren't you glad?
Glad? Oh.
Gives a moan.
To have your baby born here.
They all look at each other, startled.
Wonderful. I'll phone all the women's clubs, the parent teachers, the civic league. We'll ask for letters. Shall an innocent child bear the stigma of jail?
They'll eat it alive.
Flynn to Sunshine.
Good. And then a petition.
Oh, yes, miles and miles of names.
Asking that bail be granted so that an innocent babe can be born in God's great outdoors.
His arm sweeps the Western Hemisphere.
But you won't wait for that, will you? When
is it to be?
Closes her eyes a moment.
Oh, not till fall. September.
Then I'd better crowd it in before I sail. Yeah, I'll rush it to the jury in June.
A look of triumph flashes over Roxie's face as she sinks back on the pillow.
What jury would condemn a mother-to-be?
And Billy, could a jury condemn her to death? Or would it be passing judgment on 2 lives instead of 1? And if they did, could the sentence be executed, or...
See the state's attorney on that.
Chuckles.
It's a solar plexus for him, all right.
Roxie sits up dramatically.
My own life doesn't matter, but that of my child?
Gives a little tremolo as she sinks back.
My child!
Don't worry, my dear. The American public will fight to the death for your innocent unborn babe.
And every true woman. Why, motherhood itself is at stake, isn't it, Mr. Flynn? Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if the trial could come just before Mother's Day?
Roxie, soulfully.
You've been so kind to me, Miss Sunshine. If it's a girl, I'm gonna name it after you.
Sunshine kisses her.
Oh, you darling, that's just too sweet.
Roxie takes Jake's hand and looks up fondly at him.
And if it's a boy, after you.
Jake beams fatuously, holds her hand a moment, then drops it like a hot cake.
Hell no. I'm married. Happily married. And aim to stay that way. Thanks, but...
Backs off.
Slip it to Billy here.
Flynn, also in alarm as she looks up at him.
Oh, no. I appreciate the honor, but...
A first son should always be named for his father.
Slowly, his expression changes.
Say, who is Papa?
Flynn, simulating indignation.
What? I'm ashamed of you, Jake. Ashamed.
Jake slaps him on back.
Take it easy. I mean Casely or Hart.
To think you'd insult this brave little woman.
Insult or not, it's what they're all gonna be asking.
Flynn steps toward him in pretended rage.
Callahan, get out. I don't want to talk to you. Get out.
Matron sings out at door.
Your husband, Mrs. Hart.
Jake grins and goes.
That's the bird I want to see.
Mary Sunshine and Jake scurry to the door. Flynn fiercely to Roxie, who half rises from her couch.
You little fool. Who is the father, anyway?
Roxie shrugs her shoulders wisely.
Don't worry. He'll stick.
I don't want him to.
Bitterly.
It'll make you look as black as hell. All the sympathy for him.
I can handle him all right.
Shut up. You've done enough. I've got to make him divorce you.
Roxie sits up alert.
Alimony?
Falls back as Amos enters, with hat on back of his head and fatuous grin. Jake saunters on one side, Sunshine skips on the other, and the matron trails after them. Amos, genially to Flynn, who comes to meet him.
Well, I guess the cigars are on me.
Flynn slaps him on the back.
That's the way to take it, Hart. Be a sport. What do you care if people laugh?
Amos, blankly, losing a little hilarity.
Laugh?
After all, people's jokes.
Jake suddenly.
By God, it is funny.
They've reached the couch. Amos tiptoes in awe and looks down at the heaving figure, face hidden by her arm. Amos in awed whisper.
Will she know me?
Jake gives a howl of merriment.
Oh my gosh, she ain't having it now.
Oh, Mr. Hart, not till fall. September.
There is a pause. Amos stands, eyes cast toward ceiling, lost in calculation. Jake lifts his hand with a knowing look toward Flynn. Sunshine gives a gasp.
Oh, Mr. Hart, you don't mean...
Amos holds up hand to stop her.
Wait a minute.
Finishes calculation.
Say, you don't put nothing over on me.
Sunshine in ecstasy over possible new turn.
Lovely, lovely.
Flynn in melancholy tone.
My client needs your support, Mr. Hart.
Amos, bitterly.
Yeah, meal ticket. That's all I've ever been. Say, you can't make a fool out of me.
What are you gonna do? Divorce her?
Amos loftily.
I ain't saying what I'll do.
Starts off, but stops as Babe is admitted with camera.
Oh, Babe, a couple of flashes here.
Babe backs off from Roxie and makes for the stairs.
Not that lens louse. I'm after the tiger girl.
It's a scoop, kid. Come on.
With a grand gesture toward Roxie.
Waiting the stalk. A baby.
Babe to Amos as he sets up camera.
Well, court plaster, you in on this?
Flynn doesn't give him a chance to answer.
No, he's cast her off, forsaken her.
Wait till I see my lawyer. I ain't as dumb as I look. September. Hell.
Goes off grandly.
Amos, my husband.
Through tears, with outstretched arms to Amos, when she's sure he's gone.
Deserted in my hour of need.
Look at the camera, sweetheart.
Wait a minute.
To Sunshine.
My sewing.
Sunshine hands her the baby dress left by Maggie in the rocking chair. She bends over the dress in sewing posture, then turns Madonna face to the camera.
I'm making every stitch myself.
Flynn takes pose by her side.
Deserted wife and mother.
Hot stuff.
Hold it.
Flash, bang, curtain. End of Act 2. Act 3 of Chicago by Maurine Watkins. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Act 3, Scene 1. 7 weeks later, a morning in June, the prisoner's room before court opens. A small room, dingy and bare, with great high brown walls that are beginning to scale off. A door at the right leads to the Bridge of Sighs. A window at the left looks upon air shaft and gray brick wall, and a center door opens into a small vestibule through which may be seen 2 other doors, one directly opposite leading to the jury room, and one at the right to the courtroom. A long bare table, half a dozen straight chairs, and a bleary mirror constitute the furnishings. Flowers are stacked on the table, dresses thrown over a chair in the corner. The makeup box is open. It looks like the dressing room of a star. The prisoner's bailiff sits by the door, sleeping in tilted chair. Now and then it drops to the floor with a thud, but he quickly rights it and resumes his dream. Roxie sits in a chair at left of table, turned relatively as it will be the witness stand in the following scene. She wears a dress with meaning, heavy white crepe with surplice collar and bishop sleeves. A nun would envy its chastity. White shoes and hose of perplexing nudity. Her feet are crossed carelessly, and one lily hand dangles a cigarette. Her eyes, wide and innocent, stare soulfully at the blank wall that represents the jury. Flynn paces up and down at the right, coaching from the sidelines.
My innocent unborn babe.
Throw your head back, nobly.
She does.
That's right. Oh, wait. Don't look at the jury on that. You forget them. Seek the eyes of your husband. He'll be over here.
He's divorced me, cast me off. I've got that all right. But still, the father of my child.
Flynn with deep emotion.
And the man you really love. Once the jury get that, and the fact he wants you back, why, they'll fall all over themselves to play Cupid and restore you to his arms.
Roxie studies vanity case and adjusts makeup.
All right, where do we go from here? My innocent unborn babe.
That's all. You've finished your story. The plain, unvarnished statement of a simple, God-fearing working girl. Sure you've got it?
Got it? I could say it in my sleep.
Then, the cross-examination?
He'd better watch his step, that Harrison. If he calls me names like he did yesterday...
You cry.
I'll crown him.
No, you won't. God, if that jury ever saw you in action. Remember, no matter what he says or how mad he gets, you shrink and cower.
Illustrates, she imitates.
And cry till the jury are ready to knock him down.
Grins.
They always lose when they bulldoze a woman. And if he says they didn't use physical violence to get those confessions...
Roxie with alacrity.
I'll hold my arm out for you to see the marks.
Does so.
Right. And when you answer him, I don't know. I don't remember.
Acts part for her.
Weak, faint, frightened, always to the jury, with a little flutter.
Blinks his eyes appealingly. She imitates.
Especially that 20-minute egg in the corner.
Roxie rises, saunters to large mirror.
Say, you don't have to tell me how to handle them babies. I ain't watched them 3 days for nothing.
Darkly.
I've done everything but give 'em my phone number.
Flynn laughs coarsely.
That'll come later. Beautiful work.
Roxie with languid complacence.
Technique. I've got it.
There's a quick knock at the door. Sunshine with an armful of flowers. Jake lounges on the threshold. Through the open door, a glimpse of the courtroom noise and confusion. Flynn joins Jake. Sunshine crosses to Roxie.
Good morning. And how is she today?
Gives her the flowers.
From the parent-teachers.
Roxie, tremulous voice.
Lovely. It's kind friends like these.
Overcome with emotion. Sunshine triumphantly.
And another baby carriage, dear. That's 5.
Roxie involuntarily shudders, places flowers with others. Jake in doorway to Flynn.
Biggest crowd since Loeb and Leopold. Get ready to strut your stuff, Billy.
Voice of Babe outside.
Come on, Billy, if you want in on this picture.
Flynn goes. Roxie gives a slide across the room, but Jake bars her.
That ain't your cue. Men only this time, sweetheart. I'll call you when the stage is set.
Closes door after him. Sunshine, who's been fluttering over letters and wires on table.
Any more proposals?
Oh, yes. A beautiful one from a New York millionaire who wants to adopt me, and one from a widower in Colorado.
Hands her the letter.
A chance to forget, and a name for your fatherless child. Do you think you could ever...
Roxie leans back, wan and pale.
It's hard, all alone, but...
Shakes her head sadly.
I can only love once.
Her lip trembles on the verge of tears. Sunshine pats her hand.
Dear Mrs. Hart.
To Flynn, who returns.
Isn't it wonderful the way she bears up?
Flynn, gravely.
We must let her rest now. A terrible strain. You understand.
Sunshine nods and goes. Roxie revives, and Flynn takes papers from briefcase and runs through them.
Better go on with my plea before the judge gets here. Let's see, where were we?
Roxie resumes seat that represents the witness stand. Flynn sits at the table across from her.
You told how they rushed in that night and found me in my kimono.
Gotta cut this sum if we finish today.
Today?
To the jury by 8 and a verdict by 10. That'll catch the home.
But maybe Harrison...
We've just agreed. 3 hours for him and 3 for me.
But me?
Oh, it won't take long for you.
Roxie, softly, as her eyes narrow. Flynn, writing, does not see.
I hope not.
Sigh, pause, burst of confidence.
But I'm so worried.
Nonsense. When they hear my speech...
But Mr. Flynn, this dress...
Flynn looks up, startled.
Dress?
If you finish tonight, I can't walk out of here all in white.
Nonsense.
If I only had a coat. You've been so particular about my clothes.
I don't give a damn if you wear gunny sack after the verdict.
I wish I could feel that way. Oh, dear. I hope I can keep my mind on his questions.
You will. All right now, snap into this. He will ask...
And I do hope I don't get tangled up and forget. There's so much to remember. That would be awful, wouldn't it? All on account of a silly old coat, or a cape, maybe. That wouldn't cost over $100.
Flynn stares in exasperation, then dawning comprehension, reaches for his purse and counts out the money.
You've learned a great deal in 3 months, my dear.
Roxie puts money in envelope with note.
Thank you, dear Mr. Flynn.
Gives envelope to bailiff.
Miss Sunshine, please.
He goes. She drops the languid pose and turns to Flynn with a hearty grin.
Attaboy. Let's go.
Flynn returns to brief.
He'll ask you why you didn't tell them the story you told this morning.
Yeah, I've wondered about that too.
You droop your head. Let us think. When and to whom did she finally reveal the dearest secret of a woman's heart? Only after long gray days in jail when her soul cried out for sympathy. Then I'll point to Mary Sunshine. To a woman. And the state's attorney wonders why she didn't confide in him. And you look modest.
Still droopin'?
Flynn nods.
Mm-hmm. They threatened and tortured and were successful in tearing from her the confession of her weakness.
What do I do?
Flynn waves for silence.
The frailty that is woman in loving too well, but she kept locked within the sanctuary of her heart.
Roxie, on her own initiative, tries to follow with effective pantomime.
The sacred secret of her coming motherhood.
Looks up and catches her in ludicrous pose.
What the hell?
Roxie, with dignity.
I'm only trying to do what you say.
Flynn, grimly.
We're not playing charades. Droop. That's all you do. Droop. Then I turn towards you. I'm thankful. I'm glad. I'm proud that you did, Roxie Hart.
Roxie lifts head expectantly.
Then what do I do?
Flynn glares at her.
What do you want to do? Turn a cartwheel?
Roxie, rebelliously.
Looks kinda dumb just to sit there.
I'll take care of that. You droop, and that's all.
She tosses her head unconvinced as he skims down the page.
Sorry. Here we are. If sorrow could avail, Fred Casely would be here now, for she'd give her life, and gladly, to bring the dead man back. You nod.
She does, raptly.
But we can't do that, gentlemen. You may take her life as the state asks, but it won't bring Casely back. That's always news to him. Now. Here's where you start to cry.
Covers his face completely with his hands in demonstration. Roxie, sarcastically.
Why don't you get me a mask?
Softly, very softly.
Orchestral gesture.
And for what purpose? To protect society. Do you fear that weeping girl?
Meets Roxie's glare of cold suspicion.
Weep, you fool. Can't you see how damn silly?
Roxie hastily takes handkerchief.
Oh, yes. I was so interested. I forgot.
Weep. For her reformation? Long speech ending. We can't give her happiness. You lift your head and listen to a mist of tears.
She does.
No, it is too late for that. Betrayed, crushed. We can let her pick up the broken fragments of life, the tangled threads. Quiver your lip. We can give her another chance. And that's all for you.
All for me? What's the rest of it about?
Flynn with satisfaction.
Harrison.
What's he got to do with it?
I'll show it ain't justice he wants, but conviction. for that means promotion.
And how long will that take?
Flynn, carelessly.
An hour or so.
Roxie, aghast.
An hour or so? Talking about him? What's the big idea?
Why, it gets their minds off of you.
Oh, it does it?
And it gets them thinking what a dirty crook he is.
Say, whose trial is this? Mine or Harrison's?
Flynn chuckles as he takes a cigar.
His, before I get through. And don't I crucify him.
Roxie drums her fingers ominously on the table, seething.
And where do I come in? What do I do?
Flynn, roaring.
My God, is this a circus? Sit still, that's what you do. And look downcast and sad. Far off, not at the jury. Or bury your head in your arms on the table.
Roxie bangs her hand down on the table.
Like hell I do. It's me they want to see, not you hopping around like a little fat monkey.
Flynn, purple.
It's my speech that brings them. Dear God, they've had enough of your damned face. And it's my speech that'll save your neck.
Significantly.
If it's saved.
They stand glaring at each other, and Roxie yields sulkily.
All right, go ahead and talk then, but not about Harrison.
Say, I'm running this.
And I'm paying for it.
And in advance, remember that? So don't get cute, or I'll throw the whole damn thing over. Walk out on you.
Roxie throws chair to one side and starts after him.
You goddamned old crook!
Shut up, you dirty little...
The door opens to admit Sunshine and Jake and the bailiff.
His Honor's here, Billy.
To Roxie.
Come on, Cinderella. The stage is set.
There's an instant transformation. Flynn gathers up his briefcase and hands Roxie a bunch of lilies of the valley from the table, and she adjusts her expression to wistful innocence as she goes slowly to the door. Flynn, in admiration and solemn tribute.
A brave little woman.
He follows immediately after her, then the bailiff, then Sunshine and Jake, making a regular procession as curtain falls and lights dim out to denote the passage of an hour or so. Scene 2. Afternoon, same day. Judge Canton's Court, Criminal Court Building, Chicago. The bench, with its high pulpit stand, is at the center rear, the witness box and jury seats at the left, the clerk's desk, with phone and records, in the enclosure at the right. There is a long table left of center, with chairs for the accused and bailiff, counsel for the defense, attorney, and runner for the state. A high rail with center passageway shuts off the common herd of listeners and furnishes a comfortable back for the pews of the privileged few. The semicircle at the right for relatives of the exhibiting attorneys, visiting lawyers, politicians, and, oh yes, relatives of the deceased. That on the left with its narrow slanting table for the representatives of the press. Windows on the right look out toward Clark Street. A door at the left, extreme front, leads to the jury room and bullpen for the accused. Another, rear extreme right, to the judge's chamber. Court is in session. His Honor, a closely shaven gentleman in the interesting 40s, is on the bench, and his bailiff, a grizzled old chap, stands gavel in hand just inside the rail of the inner sanctum, where the clerk hugs the Bible, well worn, on the outside at least. The jury, a dozen of assorted sizes with a preponderance of the middle-aged, fatherly type, are in the box. The court reporter, a nearsighted dormouse, scribbles on and on. Mr. Harrison, resplendent in a new suit, Mr. Flynn, comfortable in an old one, the accused, and a sleepy bailiff, all around the table. A half-dozen reporters in press seats, cameramen in the sanctum at His Honor's right, so they can have full shot at the jury, witness, and accused. Cameraman just back of His Honor for a full shot at the auditors, counsel, and accused. Cameramen just inside the outer rail for a close-up of witness and questioning attorney. And then, just beyond the rail, in the wide passageway between general auditors and court proper, movie men from a news weekly, real movie cameras that grind, and Klieg lights with their eerie glare. At present, however, they are not in action, and the court is slightly relaxed. Amos is on the stand, and the assistant state's attorney is reading to him from a long typewritten paper. There's a fatuous smile on his face. His eyes wander over the audience, and he speaks slowly, eager to prolong the occasion. Mr. Flynn, whose chair faces jury and press, but is carefully out of the judge's vision, is working hard. He listens with care to each word of his worthy opponent, ready to register broadly the proper emotion, amazement at his audacity, anger barely restrained from physical violence, at the knavery of the fellow, disgust at his chicanery, amusement at his stupidity, and through them all a jolly camaraderie with the jury, a knowing look, a shake of the head, a smile. They're not to be taken in, he knows that. Ready also to spring up in objection. The judge and jury may be listening to Mr. Harrison, they certainly hear his thundering tones, but they rest their eyes, maybe feast their eyes, on a fairer object than a dapper state's attorney or the gangling young man in green. You have guessed it, gentle reader, Roxie. And who can blame them? For the courtroom is hot and crowded, and she wears that dress with meaning. Her hair, soft and shining, is an aureole in the sunlight. Her cheeks are a petal pink, her parted lips a rose. She is working hard, too, tilted forward on the edge of her chair, white hands clasped to her breast. Harrison reads from typewritten paper.
Question by Sergeant Murdock. What happened next? Answer by Roxie Hart. He, Casely, started for his hat and coat, but didn't get that far. Question by Sergeant Murdock. Why not? Answer by Roxie Hart.
Rings out brutally.
Because by God I shot him.
There is a startled silence, and Harrison pauses. The jury sits up sharply and looks shocked. Roxie is astounded and turns to Flynn, who half rises in involuntary anger, then sits back and pats her arm comfortably. Perfect teamwork. Harrison reads.
Signed, April the 3rd, Roxie Hart.
Hands paper to Amos.
Do you recognize the signature?
Amos studies it carefully.
I guess so.
Beams at crowd.
Tell the jury.
Amos leans back and tweaks suspenders.
A lady who used to be my wife.
Exactly. And weren't you at the police station when your wife?
Smiles pleasantly.
Your ex-wife made this confession?
Amos drawls.
Well, now, I don't know as I'd want to go so far as to say.
Harrison paces nervously.
Yes or no? Didn't you hear her say those very words in answer to Sergeant Murdock's questions?
Some of them, yes.
Harrison flings paper down in exasperation.
What's your purpose in testifying? What are you?
Flynn springs up.
Your Honor, I object. The state's trying to discredit its own witness.
Harrison hurls at Amos.
Why did you come to me and...
Flynn, excitedly.
Your Honor, the sole purpose of this questioning is to cast reflection upon the witness.
Judge in a bored tone.
Sustained.
Harrison stands a moment nonplussed, then turns on his heel in disgust.
Take the witness.
Flynn nods pleasantly to Amos.
You are, at present, divorced from the defendant.
Yes, sir.
Who obtained this divorce?
I did.
When did you file suit?
May the 4th.
Was there any particular reason, Mr. Hart, for your filing suit on this exact day?
Well, sir, the papers came out the day before with the story of...
Flounders.
The statement that she was... that there was gonna be a little stranger.
Flynn smiles broadly.
Now, Mr. Hart, is that grounds for divorce?
Amos, wisely.
Little too much of a stranger.
Likewise gets a smile.
You mean by that you doubted the paternity of your child?
Smiles again.
I mean the child?
Yes, sir.
Warms up.
And you can see how that made me look. Like I was easy.
Flynn, smiling.
And they can't put anything over on you, can they?
I'll say they can't.
Had your wife apprised you of her condition prior to said announcement?
How's that?
Had your wife told you about this stranger?
Amos promptly.
No, sir. Neither one of 'em.
If counsel is going to pursue this line of inquiry further, Your Honor, don't you think it would be advisable to exclude women from the room?
Reporters sit up animatedly and take down every word. Judge with slow smile.
If any lady wishes to leave, she may do so now.
Roxie starts up with alacrity, and he adds with another smile.
Except the defendant.
Flynn looks around at the crowd and calls out genially.
That's right. Stick to me, girls.
To Amos.
Did you question her after you read it? Talk it over with her?
No.
Flynn suddenly flames.
Just took the word of a reporter? Believed a vile story you read in some yellow paper?
Your Honor, I object. Irrelevant and immaterial. Paternity and divorce have nothing to do with the murder of Fred Casely by Roxie Hart.
Flynn wheels toward him.
Paternity and divorce were introduced by you to besmirch the name of that defenseless girl.
Roxie drops her head modestly.
Your Honor, I'm merely cross-examining on direct.
Judge, very bored.
Proceed.
Flynn, in lighter tone.
Now, Mr. Hart, do you expect the jury to believe that, with all due respect to the press?
Wave and bow toward them. Jake gives a grin and salute in response.
Our courts would grant you a divorce merely on a newspaper story?
No, sir. I had a statement that she'd made and signed herself, all about how she and this...
And where did you get this statement?
Amos looks blandly toward Harrison, who frowns.
From the state attorney's office.
Flynn nods comprehendingly.
Ah, so the state's attorney's office gave you a statement that enabled you to get a divorce, did it? That enabled you to cast aside the woman you had sworn to love and cherish, for better or worse?
Roxie wipes her eyes carefully.
And what, Mr. Hart, did you give the state's attorney?
Harrison springs up hotly.
Your Honor, this is too much.
To Flynn.
Withdraw that, you...
Gentlemen.
With reproachful glance toward Flynn.
Counsel should be more discreet.
All right, Your Honor. I withdraw the question.
Pause.
As unnecessary.
To Amos.
You obtained your divorce, then, because you doubted the legitimacy of this offspring?
Yes, sir. I'm nobody's fool, I'm not.
And if you became convinced you were wrong, had been hasty, you'd be man enough to admit it, wouldn't you?
Yes, sir.
You'd be willing, in fact, to take her back.
Amos, his eyes meet Roxie's.
Yes, I'd take her back, provided, of course.
Excused.
Halts Amos as he starts to leave.
Oh, one word more. Just answer where you are. Can you swear you are not the father of this child?
Well, no, not exactly.
Come here.
They go to Judge. Reporters spring up and cluster about bench. Hushed conference while Amos shakes his head first yes, then no, then yes to Judge's questions. Amos swings off.
I ain't as dumb as I look.
Harrison, curtly.
The state rests.
The clerk calls in loud voice, Roxie Hart. A movie man converses with the judge hurriedly while cameras are adjusted. She takes the stand. Klieg lights flood the room with uncanny glares. The judge straightens and looks judicial. The lawyers turn careful profiles to the camera, and the jury, for this moment, look their sacred responsibility. Clerk holds up Bible.
Blah, 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 blah. Truth, truth, truth. S'help you God.
Roxie, so bravely for all her fright.
I do.
She is excited. She is thrilled. The crowds, the lights, the noise, all for her. She takes to it like a duck to water. Flynn takes his stand at her right. He doesn't want to cheat the camera. They must have at least a profile, preferably 3/4.
What is your name?
He is looking at the jury, but it is intent on the camera and does not answer. Roxie lifts eyes heavenward.
Roxie Hart.
Flynn flings his arm out with a magnificence that is alarming. The camera can't hear words.
Where do you live, Mrs. Hart?
Roxie closes her eyes with vampire passion and clasps one hand to her heart.
Cook County Jail.
Flynn, a terrific impact of fist in palm, and the famous Billy Flynn scowl.
How old are you?
23.
Chokes the 3 so lip readers will not see, and wipes a tear from her eyes. The camera has all it wants for a while. Lights are gone, the grinding stops, and there's a general relaxation from the terrific strain.
Let's see, where were we? Oh, yes. Were you acquainted with Fred M. Casely, the deceased?
Yes, sir.
Note, from now on, she's very much the plain, simple, honest, and God-fearing working girl.
When did you first meet him?
10 minutes after 5, September the 8th.
Like all good witnesses, she has mastered the mnemonic system recommended by Mr. A. of Seattle.
Where did this meeting transpire?
In the vestibule of the Waverly Company, 1861 South Michigan Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois.
Relate to the jury what conversation, if any, took place between you on this date.
It was raining, and I was standing there with my girlfriend looking out, for we didn't have an umbrella. And Mr. Casely came by and said, "It's a fine day for ducks." And we both said yes.
Both of you?
Roxie, after conscientious thought.
Yes, sir, both of us. And he said he had an umbrella, and would we care to walk to the car?
Car?
Streetcar. And we said yes.
Forestalling his question.
She said yes, and we started out, and before we got to the corner, he said his auto was there, and he'd take us home. Well, you know how crowded a Cottage Grove car is at 5:30 on a rainy day when it gets to 18th Street, and we said yes. And he did her first, then me.
How did Mr. Casely conduct himself during this drive?
Roxie looks puzzled.
Unusually friendly in any way?
No, sir.
When was the next time you saw him?
The following Tuesday. It rained again, and he took us home.
Both of you?
Yes, sir, both of us.
And the next time?
Thursday.
And then?
Friday.
Apologetically.
We had a kind of wet spell along then. You remember?
And was your friend with you each time?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did you ever see Mr. Casely on any other occasions?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Roxie, innocently.
Why, at the office.
Flynn, impatient at her dullness.
Socially, I mean. Did he ever take you places?
Roxie falters slightly.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall the first place you went with him?
Yes, sir. The policeman's benefit ball.
She looks reproachfully at Officers Murdock and Patterson, who are trying to hang her. They twist, uncomfortable.
When was that?
Christmas Eve.
Relate to the jury what conversation, if any, you had in regard to this ball.
Well, one evening.
I object, Your Honor. Time and place.
Can you fix the time and place?
Roxie, promptly.
5:18, Tuesday, October the 7th, going south on Michigan Boulevard. And he said he had a couple of tickets to the ball, which was to be at the Coliseum, and a very swell affair, and he had been aiming to take his sister, and she couldn't go, and would I care to, and if I did and had nobody to go with, why, he'd take me.
Flynn leans forward.
Did you know at this time, Mrs. Hart, that he was married?
Roxie, shocked.
Oh, no, sir. Oh, no, Mr. Flynn.
Flynn, with sad reproach.
But you were married, Roxie.
Roxie drops her head.
Yes, sir.
You believe in the sacredness of the marriage tie, don't you?
Your Honor, I object. What the witness believes is immaterial.
You know the marriage tie is sacred, don't you?
Roxie, reverently.
Yes, sir. That's what I told him all along.
Flynn, in feigned surprise.
Oh, so he had asked you before?
Oh, yes, sir, from the very start.
Will you tell us, then, just why you made an exception for the policeman's ball?
Roxie, in low tone.
I don't know. So many things happen, and you don't know why.
Looks far away and gives a long sigh.
But I wouldn't have. I'm sure I wouldn't have if Amos...
Lips tremble and delicate pause.
Mr. Hart hadn't quarreled that morning.
Flynn, again surprised.
Oh, did you and your, Mr. Hart quarrel?
Roxie drops her head, life crushed within her, hope beaten out.
Yes, sir.
And who was to blame?
Roxie, flat, weary tone.
I was, I guess. Seems like I couldn't stop pestering him.
Pestering him? Oh, what about?
Roxie flings her head back, and a rich tone breaks through.
Because I wanted a home. I didn't want to work. He was making his 40 a week, and I wanted a real home. With children.
Her head droops again. The jury wipes its eyes. Flynn decides to forgive her, and his tone is gentle.
I see. So conditions in your home caused you to...
Your Honor, I object to counsel's drawing conclusions as to...
Flynn, blandly.
Strike it out. And so you drifted on and on in this relation, unhappy.
Oh, most unhappy.
Why were you unhappy?
Because I was deceiving my husband, and because I...
Fainter.
Was doing wrong.
Why didn't you stop?
I did want to. I tried to. But he'd plead, Mr. Casely, and say he couldn't live without me.
Flynn, to court reporter.
State's Exhibit D.
Hands paper to Roxie and pauses a moment. Then his tone is cold. The subject is distasteful to him, and he has disgust for a man who would drag such matters into a courtroom.
In this, you admit illicit relations with the deceased.
She is in an agony of shame.
Is this statement true or false?
Roxie, in low tone.
It's true.
She will not lie. You can feel that. She will not lie.
You have heard other statements read to the jury, alleged to be made by you to Officer Murdock. I hand you State's Exhibits E and F. Are these true or false?
Roxie, energetically.
False.
Do you accuse the state of changing?
Now, Your Honor.
Rephrase your question.
Describe your state of mind at the time of the confession.
Oh, I was all upset, frightened, worried, crying, laughing.
Do you think it might be called hysterical?
Yes, sir, that's it. Hysterical.
Flynn pauses a moment, then speaks in deep, solemn tone.
Roxie Hart, the state charges you with the murder of Fred Casely. Guilty or not guilty?
Roxie speaks first to judge, then to jury.
Not guilty. Oh, not guilty. I killed him, yes, but not the other.
Flynn, quietly.
Do you remember Friday, April the 3rd?
Roxie, low, steady tone.
I do.
Tell the jury now, in your own way, the happenings of that day from 5 o'clock on. Take your time and speak clearly.
Roxie turns to face the jury directly. They perk up with interest.
I left work as usual at 5. Took the Cottage Grove car. Stopped at the A&P for some baking powder for biscuits for breakfast the next morning. He was always so fond of my biscuits.
Yes, yes.
Sympathetically.
And what time was this?
About 26. And I was just getting into a house dress when the doorbell rang. I thought it was Irma, my girlfriend, and so I slipped into a sorta kimono and went to the door.
Yes, and who was there?
It was Mr. Casely.
Who spoke first?
He did.
Do you remember what he said?
Yes, sir. Hello, Roxie. I had to see you just once more.
What did he mean by that?
I had written him a note telling him it was all over and that we must quit, for it could never end in happiness.
What brought you to this decision?
I had learned he was married, and I realized I loved my husband, and perhaps we could be happy.
And did he go away as you asked him to?
Harrison, shouting.
I object to counsel's feeding the witness.
I beg your pardon. And what did you say?
I begged him to go away and tried to close the door, but he forced his way in. I told him to wait in the living room while I dressed.
It's hard for her to go on.
But he followed me into the bedroom.
Yes. And then?
Asks each question with an air of triumph.
I begged him to go. Told him the neighbors would see him, that my husband would soon be home.
And what did he say?
He'd been drinking and wouldn't listen. Finally, he said if I'd just take one drink with him, he'd go. And I did.
What was the liquor? What kind was it?
Roxie, ingenuously.
I don't know. It was in a bottle and tasted very bad.
Flynn smiles.
Bad liquor, or just tasted bad to you?
Roxie, seriously.
Yes, sir.
Flynn nods triumphantly.
Why didn't you scream?
I was ashamed for the neighbors to know. You know how you'd feel.
Her eyes meet the butcher's, and he nods.
And I'd kept telling him what I'd said in the letter, that no good would come of it, that I loved my husband.
Oh, you told him that you loved your husband. And what did he say to that?
It made him mad, and he said it didn't matter. I was his. And he kept trying to take me in his arms.
Looks appealingly at Flynn and hesitates.
Yes, Roxie, you must tell the jury everything.
The reporters sit up alert.
They have a right to know.
The jury looks as if it's not only a duty, but a pleasure. Roxie, faint.
And finally, I told him my delicate condition.
The moment for which they have waited.
And what did he say to that?
He swore.
Looks shocked.
And said that he'd kill me before he'd see another man's child.
The reporters lick it up.
Where were you at this time?
By the Victrola.
Show the jury.
She scrambles to the diagram hanging on the wall.
And Casely?
Here.
Indicates bed. Flynn impressively as he hands her back to the witness chair with all the tenderness due a mother-to-be.
Now, Roxie, tell the jury just what happened next.
The pillows were thrown back, and Mr. Hart's revolver was laying there. He grabbed. I knocked it from his hand. It fell to the floor, and he whirled me aside, back by the dresser now. And we both grabbed for the gun. I reached it first, and he started toward me. I can see him now with that awful look in his eyes.
What kind of look? Describe it to the jury.
I can't describe it, but a terrible look. Angry. Wild.
Flynn purrs.
Were you afraid? Did you think he meant to kill you?
Roxie shudders.
Oh, yes, sir. I knew if he once reached the gun.
Flynn purrs more deeply.
It was his life, then, or yours?
Yes, sir.
Faintly, as she lifts her eyes.
And not just mine.
Pause, then continues dramatic narrative.
Coming right toward me, with that awful look, that wild look. I closed my eyes, and...
barely whispers.
Shot.
In defense of your life?
Roxie lifts her head nobly.
To save my husband's innocent unborn child.
Flynn, with a wave of hand to Harrison.
Take the witness.
Black for an instant to denote the passage of several hours. It is late that afternoon, and Flynn is making his closing plea. He stands before the jury. This is the hour he earns the $5,000, and Billy Sunday himself never worked harder, with muscle as well as brain, minus coat and collar, with perspiration standing in great beads on his forehead. He's fighting, gentlemen, fighting with every drop of his blood for the life of that brave little woman. The jury, hypnotized, enthralled, hangs on each word and follows every gesture. The press watch benignly. They know his whole bag of tricks. But Billy's always worth watching. Even the judge listens. And Roxie? This scene is really the close of an hour's duel between Roxie and Flynn. When the curtain goes up, honors are even, and she is faithfully registering the emotions outlined for her in rehearsal. Gradually, however, she extends her field. Deeper emotion, gesture, writhing. She works for her audience, the jury, and they, fascinated, are torn between her contortions and the fervid orator. Flynn, who feels them slipping, turns when his speech permits, and tries to stop her with furtive gesture. Of course, she is oblivious, and he is forced to redouble his own efforts, louder tone, wilder manner to drown her out. Until toward the end, you have them both playing in grand crescendo. Flynn, in low dramatic tone.
Can't you see her that night? Alone, alone, with only God and that body.
Pause.
You and I have never killed, gentlemen. We do not know the agony of that hour. We can only guess the mad regret, the bitter reproach, the torture, the hell.
He grinds it out like a minister.
She lived through then. The soul's Gethsemane, alone.
Roxie droops in the approved manner. The jury gives her a glance of sympathy, then is back with Flynn.
And into this sacred room rush the police.
He snarls an imitation of Murdock and grasps an imaginary arm. Roxie studies her wrist.
Why did you kill him? Come on now, you'd better tell. Threats, physical violence, and the worthy state's attorney.
Sarcasm.
With his kindness, his promises.
Imitates Harrison with a husky whisper.
Come clean and I'll help you. Come clean and I'll get you off.
Roxie follows, nodding eagerly, with a look of reproach at Harrison.
Frightened, hysterical, the girl breaks down. She does confess. Dazed and bewildered, she says yes to whatever they ask her.
Take statement from court stenographer.
Do you believe, gentlemen, that's a word-for-word confession he read you? Of course not. No human being could have made such a deliberate, coherent statement. Certainly not this delicate, frightened girl. No, there was a careful selection. A bit here.
Lifts out morsels from the air.
A bit there. An addition, deletion, anything to build up his case.
He's hoarsely confidential.
He's got to bring home a conviction or lose his job.
All eyes are turned in scorn toward Harrison, who slinks down with eyes downcast.
And then he read it to you, malicious twist of meaning.
Reads as Harrison read in former scene.
But he didn't get that far. Question, why not? Answer, because by God I shot him. That's the way he read it to you, ain't it?
Jury looks grieved. It's true. He flings the paper on table.
He would have you believe, gentlemen, that child sitting there.
Roxie lifts her head, the picture of girlish innocence.
Swore.
He is shocked, as the jury was that morning.
Those were her words, yes, but what a different meaning. This beast, this drunken brute, who had forced his way into her home. And remember, gentlemen, if she had shot him down then, the law would have upheld her, was coming toward her, threatening her life.
Breaks off and resumes in melancholy tone.
What was the future to her? Crushed, betrayed, broken-hearted. Nothing, less than nothing, but the little life that fluttered beneath her heart.
Taps his fountain pen pocket.
Mother love stirred within her, and those words were a tribute to her omnipotent Maker who stood by her in her hour of need.
He brings it out with ministerial reverence. Roxie's gaze is directed heavenward, and her hands clasped to her heart in prayer.
By God, I shot him.
Jury looks relieved. Effective pause while little Eva does her stuff. He goes on quietly.
I'm sorry she loved as she did. I'm sorry this monster preyed on her innocence. I wish he had never entered that happy little home. If sorrow could avail...
He warms up.
Fred Casely would be here now, for she'd give her life and gladly to bring the dead man back.
Roxie nods in ecstatic confirmation and begins enthusiastic pantomime.
But we can't do that, gentlemen.
Melancholy.
You may take her life as the state asks, but it won't bring Casely back.
Gives Roxie a fixed look. She recalls her cue and starts moaning and sobbing.
And for what purpose? To protect society?
His voice rings out.
Do you fear that weeping girl?
Finger darts to the tailor.
Do you?
To the hard-boiled egg in the corner.
Do you?
They don't. He continues.
For her reformation? She learned her lesson, gentlemen, in that dark hour alone. For punishment? My God, she's punished enough. No, none of these. But to satisfy the greedy ambition of the prosecution. Prosecution? No, persecution. You are asked for a life, gentlemen.
He turns in exasperation at the loudness of Roxie's wails and gives her a signal for quiet, which she sublimely ignores. He raises his voice to a shriek in the effort to drown her.
My one who would climb to fame on dead bodies.
Pause, filled with her sobs, almost howls.
We can't give her happiness.
The jury is with her.
No, it is too late for that. Betrayed, crushed, we can only let her pick up the broken fragments of life, the tangled threads.
She is supposed to quiver her lip, but instead she rises, staggers toward the jury with outstretched hands.
We can give her another chance.
She totters, gives a wild shriek, and falls in a dead faint by his side. Grand confusion, and she's carried out. He turns to judge.
We rest, Your Honor. You may give the case to the jury.
Black for an instant to denote the passage of 3 or 4 hours. Courtroom, 10 o'clock that night. Gloomy and dull, with doors closed and the press awaiting verdict. Amos strides in passageway. Jake stands at vestibule door, half ajar, disclosing bailiff with ear to keyhole of jury room. Men and women reporters lounge in press seats. A poker game has just finished among cameramen at clerk's desk, and Babe is giving imitation of Flynn for photographers and the lawyer himself, who watches from Judge's doorway. Babe stretches forth hands and exaggerates Flynn's manner.
And then, kerflop, the purtiest faint I ever saw, and my camera not even set. And they carried her out just like a stiff, or hypnotized. You could have stuck pins in her.
God, what a picture that would have made. And this dirty bum
gives Flynn a shove.
That was a real faint, boys. An honest to God.
Tell it to Sweeney, right at the end of your speech.
It ended my speech, all right.
And her in there, dancing the Charleston.
With sudden inspiration.
Make her do it again now. We could get her picture.
Nah, all they want now's the verdict. Good Lord, I wish...
Suddenly...
I've got it.
They fall to discussion. Flynn joins the reporters. Jake returns from vestibule.
Well, they're through with the clan prohibition, so there ought to be one before long.
What is it now?
10 to 2. The drummer says he knew a Jane like her once, and the third guy from the end, just pure cussedness.
Flash bang, flash bang, flash bang. Everyone stares in amazement. There's nothing to take pictures of. The cameras are not set, just the flashlight rods.
Hey there, what's the big idea?
Smoking 'em out. If that don't bring 'em, it's Gabriel's cue.
The judge appears at the door from his chambers, and from the prisoner's room left, Roxie, minus her dress, peeps out.
Listen, Judge, can't we get a few pictures now?
It's getting late, and if you want this with your oatmeal...
Babe yells to Roxie.
Come on, Red. We're shooting 'em now.
To Judge.
You and her and counsel.
And me here with the ring and license.
Now, if we just had the jury, couldn't you call 'em out for a minute?
Sure. Then we'd be through.
Judge in alarm.
No, that would be grounds for reversal. I'm sorry, but...
All right. One of her in her lawyer's arms.
Bailiff rushes in, loud whisper.
They're coming! They're coming!
Flynn hurries to prisoner's room to get his fair charge. Babe grins.
I knew that'd bring 'em.
All scramble to appointed places. The jury files in. Roxie, in exquisite orchid evening gown, enters on Flynn's arm. Foreman gives Judge envelope. There is an expectant hush. After all, you never know, you know. Judge reads.
We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty.
Flash, bang, flash, bang. A shriek from Roxie, cheers, confusion, and general bedlam all around. She kisses the judge, the stenographer, and anybody else within reach. The jury climbs over the rail. Pressed by her public, she mounts the counsel table, flings her arms out in a carefully set speech delivered in her best artificial manner, while the cameramen go on with their pictures and the Klieg lights take up their glare.
Dear friends, kind friends, who have stood by me in the dark hours of the past. His Honor, Mr. Flynn, Mr. Callahan.
Jake, by the outer door, gives a look of disgust.
Mary Sunshine, and all you guys on the jury, you've been so kind to me, so encouraging that I'm gonna do something for you.
Bang, bang, bang! 3 pistol shots from the corridor outside, then a woman's shriek. All stand poised a moment in tense silence.
What the hell?
Sunshine, avidly.
Another murder?
A police whistle outside. As one man, the crowd flings around from Roxie and breaks for the door.
Hey, you! Come back here!
They go steadily on.
Wait a minute! I want to tell you something!
No one even gives her a look. She bursts into old-time rage.
You goddamn bums walking out on me when I want to make a speech!
Climbs down angrily and starts after them.
It's important! It's news!
Flynn, only he and Amos are left now.
Forget it. You're all washed up.
Roxie hopping around like a hornet.
I am not washed up. I'm gonna be in vaudeville. I'm famous.
What?
Sure. Booked solid for 10 weeks.
But the wedding.
No wedding. It would ruin my career.
But the ring.
Takes from pocket and shows her.
Platinum and diamonds this time.
Roxie grabs it.
I'll keep it to remember you by.
But the baby, Roxie. The baby.
Baby? My God, do I look like an amateur?
Babe dashes into his camera, all set for action.
Another case for you, Billy.
Over his shoulder.
It won't take a minute now, Captain. Just a little picture of the two slayers, with you here between 'em.
They enter, a police sergeant and a weeping, defiant girl, followed by cameramen and reporters who cluster about like flies, mosquitoes, buzzards. Jake to Billy.
Another Jane out for trigger practice. Bumped off the boyfriend, also his wife. Gee, ain't God good to the papers.
Roxie in spasm of jealousy and envy.
2 of them? Oh my God!
Come on, Carrots, a picture of you with Machine-Gun Rosie.
Roxie slides into position as she sees the cameras are set.
The Jazz Slayer meets the Cicero Kid. Shake hands.
Poses them.
No!
Jerks her hand away and flings arm up to cover her face.
I don't want in the papers.
Jake jerks it down again.
Come on, sister, you gotta play ball. This is Chicago.
The lights go on, the cameras grind, flash, bang, curtain. End of Act 3. End of Chicago by Maurine Watkins.